Franciscan Health and our Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday. That comes up at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. And an area when it comes to the heart, and I get so many people, and I appreciate it. There's a vulnerability that comes with it of, reaching out and saying, hey, Jake, I found this out about my heart, or I got the heart scan. I just had somebody the other day that said I'm 70, I had a physical, so I went ahead and did the heart scan, found out that I had some blockage. I'm getting on a medication now. That's the point and the purpose and the motivation for doing our Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Fridays, and we will do that coming up at the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. Nathan Baird going to join us to talk about Purdue athletics, that at the bottom of the 12 o'clock hour. But let's begin the show before we start talking about the big deal. We should call every subject today the big deal, because the big deal is the new grilled cheese sandwich at the Dairy Bar right here at the Great Indiana State Fair. And I'm here with the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Brooke Williams will join me later in the program from the American Dairy Association of Indiana. And we'll talk about their, the new milkshake they have, the blue raspberry milkshake, the big deal sandwich, everything they have here at the Dairy Bar over the course of today. But let's begin with what took place last night. I have always felt this way, and I'm not as adamant about it as others. But last night, once again, I just was reminded and asked myself this question. That was a great game last night at Gainbridge Fieldhouse. That was a great game. And certainly, with every game with the Indiana Fever, you are nuanced now into the breaking it down game by game. For whatever reason, and maybe it's because the WNBA is a shorter season than the NBA. But in the NBA, if the Pacers go and they lose a game, they have a tight game that gets away from them and they lose in a tight game to the Nuggets. We talk about it, but there's not the whole oh my gosh, get rid of everybody, fire everybody, trade everybody. But it feels like with the WNBA, there is more spotlight and more hyper-focus game to game. And part of that is because it is a shortened season. There are fewer games, and therefore they are magnified that much more. And then all of the other things that we've talked about. But last night, to me, was the classic example. The Fever, and it was a remarkable game, a back and forth, and Kelsey Mitchell and Caitlin Clark both hitting big shots down the stretch, although Caitlin Clark missed 2 critical free throws, but more on that. But when you are up 3, under 10 seconds left, and the other team has basically a final possession, Eddie, I'm a firm believer in it. You have to foul in that situation, right? You have to foul and not give them opportunity to hit a 3. And yet last night, the Fever did not do that. They elected to not do so, and it was admittedly kind of a bizarre and fortuitous rotation and bounce of the basketball that led to Las Vegas getting an open look. But nonetheless, Vegas hits that 3, and you go into overtime, and then obviously hits the 3 to end the game after a critical turnover by Caitlin Clark and the Fever. But, Eddie, I'm a huge believer in it, and you tell me if you disagree. Or, for that matter, I think Stephanie White and Aaliyah Boston explained why they disagree. You got to foul if you're up 3.
They do have to foul, Jake, but in that specific situation with how the play happened, there wasn't an opportunity to foul because the ball gets inbounded. The Fever absolutely read it to a T, and Aaliyah Boston knew exactly what play was coming. And instead of being able to come down with that inbounded pass, it's a deflection. Lexi Hull doesn't turn her head. She's too busy face guarding Jackie Young. So Jackie Young's like, okay, I'll just reach around you and I'll grab this loose ball. And then she just hands it right off to Chelsea Gray, and she heaves up a 3 to send it into overtime at the horn. So I didn't think there was an opportunity for the Fever to really foul, because if they did try, there was a really good chance that it would have led to 3 free throws and it's still going to overtime in that way that it did. But It would have been different if the ball had come in cleanly. If Asia would have been able to catch it on the inbound, then I think you would have immediately fouled. But since it was deflected by Aaliyah Boston on the inbound, it just didn't give the Fever much of an opportunity to do that.
I do understand that the hindsight's always 20/20, right? I mean, whichever way you go with it, it's very easy after the fact. And I also understand that in those impulsive moments that, things are happening quickly, right? And going into it, there probably was that design of what you're talking about of, look, they're going to goat us into that situation. But, I mean, even at the worst, you don't want a 4-point play. But even at the worst, if you foul them on a 3-point attempt and they get 3 free throws, the worst that's going to happen is, they're going to tie it and they got to hit 3 consecutive shots as opposed to just 1. And what are the odds that they get a 3 and a foul? I mean, I guess that's in play. But it just, to me, statistically speaking, you feel safer if you foul in that situation. Last night, the Colts had, of course, their night practice. I'm sure the morning guys were talking plenty about that today. As a matter of fact, do we know, Eddie, and I should ask Kevin this, did Bowen get any sleep? Do we know? Because they were done last night at Grand Park late, right?
Well, they were done late. Did you see his video on social media recapping last night's practice?
Yes.
So he was in the hotel in which the media go to work. So I just wonder if he just got a room there.
Well, but no, because that's still that hotel, motel, Holiday Inn, and I'm not saying which one it is, but I will quote the Sugar Hill Gang. That's a 45-minute drive from the station, and they had to get there early this morning at the station, so my assumption would be he might have just driven back and slept at the station itself. But one of the things he talked about, and at this point, I almost feel like we're at the point now of tell me when there's something different to report than this. I totally and firmly believe now, and I know that what I'm about to say has been true for like 3 years, but now I think it's officially true. Unless something seismically changes and you hear differently, and at this point it's a broken record, so I don't know why we continue to talk about it, but it is newsworthy because of the player. And, yes, Daniel Jones is the starting quarterback of the Colts. And Daniel Jones, to quote Shane Steichen, has been on fire. And Daniel Jones last night, according to Kevin, I think 20 of 25. Now, I don't read a lot into that. I'm a cynic when it comes to, like, training camp stats. Drew Haddad is in Canton along with Adam Vinatieri this weekend if we go by training camps. So too is, as we know, Duron Carter, training camp all-star, right? But I think we can now safely say Anthony Richardson, it's over. And I think the difference is this in comparison to years past. When Anthony Richardson did the helmet tap and took himself out of the game and said that he was fatigued, I'm just tired, I'm not going to lie to you guys. Jim Harbaugh had done the same thing in a game with the Colts. But Jim Harbaugh was a fiery competitor, and, man, he just left it all out there, so much so that he had to take himself out for a play. But the difference is right now versus years past. And I hate saying it because I have nothing against him as a player. I have nothing against him as a person. I don't know him. I'm only going by the moments that I've had. And when I say I don't know him, I think it's important to point out for listeners of this show, are there athletes that we get to know? Of course, especially when they've been around for a long time. But does it mean that we know the inner workings of all of every part of their ingredient and their moxie and their makeup? Do we know their total backstory? Do we know the origin during their formidable years of things that influenced and impacted and drove and built them? No, we don't. And in the case of Anthony Richardson, I don't know Anthony Richardson. But I know enough of his story to know that I am pulling for Anthony Richardson. And have pulled for Anthony Richardson. Not just because it would win games for the Colts if he turned out to be the player that he was thought to be when they drafted him where they did, but also because he has a story that makes you want to pull for him. He's a likable young man. But as time has gone on, when Anthony Richardson was selected, there were those that were skeptical and didn't believe. As Anthony Richardson was handed the keys by Chris Ballard, there were those that were skeptical and didn't believe. But Chris Ballard believed. And the Colts believed. And then once he got opportunity to play, and occasionally he would throw a 65-yard, perfectly on the mark pass to, Alec Pierce while falling backward on his back foot, and everybody inside Lucas Oil Stadium believed. But there were skeptics, because then he would overthrow, or then he would roll out and he would make the wrong decision, or he would miss a blitz that was coming his way and get injured. And there were skeptics. And then he did the helmet tap, and there were skeptics. But this is the first time over the course of this camp, and I watched him when we were out there for the first 6 practices, or 5 or whatever it was, and then I watched him, it's 5 practices that I saw, and then I paid attention last night, and I'm watching the way that he takes, in particular, shotgun snaps, the way that he reacts in his body language when he misses a throw. And for the very first time since he was selected, in the very first time, and it's inconsequential because Daniel Jones is your starting quarterback. So who really cares about Anthony Richardson except for that he is the top of the resume of Chris Ballard of this was the most important selection that I had to make in my tenure as the general manager of the Indianapolis Colts. And for the first time now, I truly believe this, that Anthony Richardson, for the first time, is a skeptic. And that's important. It's unfortunate. But he looks now like a guy that, in fact, he was the last to the party. He was the last in the room saying it. He was the last to discover it. But it definitely looks to me at this point like Anthony Richardson is a guy that no longer believes in Anthony Richardson. And for that reason, it's over. It's over. Now, can somebody else rejuvenate and not even rejuvenate, but can somebody else get the consistency and make it their project? Maybe. And it's a lot easier to do that if you're giving up a future 7th rounder for the guy, and he's already gotten his roster bonus from the last place. It's a lot easier then to invest in that than it is when you take him within the top 5 and give him the roster bonus and everything else. But I think even the Colts know that they're beyond now. The investment, sure, they wanted to ride it out, but the last piece of the experiment has now, in my opinion and my observation, come to fruition, and that is that he no longer believes. And you can see it in his body language. You can see when he overthrows a receiver, you can just see in his reaction. His reaction is that of just almost incredulous or almost like a relief of like, okay, well, at least that play's over with. And that's a dangerous place to be, but that's where, at this point, it looks like his game is. The other thing, too, that is of note for the Colts, and Matt Taylor will join us coming up at 11, we'll get kind of the more on this, but the injury, and it's not a major one, but the injury to C.J. Allen or the recurrence with the hamstring, here is a guy that is thought to be your quarterback of your defense. He is your middle linebacker that was originally going to be the green dot guy. That now is Cam Bynum. I don't think you say that as an indictment on a young player. But he did, and I think this is important, he did miss, and it was just a couple of days. But C.J. Allen starting out on the shelf list and having that injury and then back from it, and now again I don't know that it's anything major, but it's critical, and I'm going to use a really bad analogy, okay? And I do that from time to time. But Ryan Hunter-Reay, for those that don't know, a former Indy 500 champion, a veteran of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, a former series champion. Ryan Hunter-Reay this year in the Indianapolis 500. Everybody knows, Ryan Hunter-Reay was with a good team And McClelland, he's a veteran driver. He's an experienced driver. He's a smart driver. But he was late to get out on the track in practice. And then once he did get out on the track, they never were able to, like, fine-tune that car. And he was like, man, I'm telling you, I'm out there on roller skates. And the whole month, which I realize is just like 2 weeks, but the whole month of May, it was just off because they never got proper foundation to start the month. And it feels to me, again, it's very early. And I'm not saying that in any way, shape, or form that this impacts, and we'll talk to Matt Taylor about it, but when you are a rookie player, that so much is expected in terms of playing right in one of the most important positions and being the green dot guy and the communicative guy and all of those things, that is such an important piece that you need every practice, and notably the early ones and the reps and everything else, and you just need to get footing and familiarity and comfort underneath you, and he has yet to be able to do that. Now, I think he's going to be a good player for them, and I think he'll play this year, but is it rooting to the point of exactly everything and everywhere they need to be at this point, considering that he has not gotten consistent reps underneath him? It's one of the things certainly to watch, and Matt Taylor will join us for that. Eddie, one more time, you said we are good, and Tommy McClelland, they did confirm, going to join at noon, right?
Noon Eastern, Jake. Noon. Whoa, that was a nice little reverb there. But yeah, noon Eastern, Tommy McClelland, the new Purdue athletic director, will join us. Yes.
Okay, and in addition to that, you think I need to ask him about the comments right off the top? Just right to it, right?
Yeah, got to get straight to it, yes.
Okay. I mean, I'll do it. Hey, what are we doing here? Should I just say it that way? Hey, what are we doing here?
That might be a little
You've gone
direct.
viral.
A little too direct.
What are we doing here? Okay.
I'm wondering.
Did you get a hold, by the way, of Kyle Neddenrip?
Yes.
You got a hold of Kyle Neddenrip, right?
I did.
All right.
Yeah.
Kyle Neddenrip, Indianapolis Star. He is going to join us on the other side, and we're going to talk about middle school jamboree night. I'm just kidding. We're going to talk about high school football, and it's band day here at the Indiana State Fair. It is a massive crowd. So if you are heading to the fair, the one thing I will tell you, and in particular if you're trying to park in the infield at the State Fair, is to give yourself plenty of time coming in, because the lanes coming in off of Fall Creek and also on the 42nd Street entrance, both of them backed up right now, which is a good thing, and understandably so, because everybody wants to get the Big Dill grilled cheese. Everybody wants to get the blue raspberry milkshake, all of it, all right here at the Dairy Bar. That's where you will find us, right along the main stretch here outside the Coliseum at the great Indiana State Fair with the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Kyle Neddenrip joins us next here, Corey and Company on the Fan.
Barry and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
By the way, if you are at the Indiana State Fair, and I saw my buddy Darren just a second ago, Darren King, loyal listener. I saw Darren, a couple of other people have already said hello. Be sure if you are in the vicinity or you're coming to the Indiana State Fair to come by the Dairy Bar and register for the Nutra Milkshake Maker. You can make milkshakes right there in your own home, just like the milkshakes, not as good as the ones they have in the Dairy Bar here from the American Dairy Association of Indiana. The blue raspberry milkshake, and then the Big Dill sandwich, which is the very best. The grilled cheese, the new grilled cheese, and it does include dill pickles on it. Look forward to having all of that later today. Gentleman right here finishing up his milkshake. He says it's delicious. All right. Kyle Neddenriep joins us now from the Indianapolis Star. And, Kyle, I'm looking at this right here, okay? Sean up in Lafayette says middle school football has always been this way. Camp the week before school and Jamboree the first Thursday or Friday of the week. I should know I was the third-string center at Northside Middle School in Columbus in '87. I don't remember at Eastwood that we just had 1 week of camp and then got out there and got going, but apparently somebody else said their middle schooler has already lost a game so far this year. So apparently middle school's underway, and then high school football also. We are right here. It is that time of year again. Kyle, thanks for joining us.
Yeah, that's crazy. Middle school's played a game already. That seems super early, but yeah, I
would
guess
agree.
It's about that time of year.
Yeah, it says, Jake, my 8th grade son has his first game on Tuesday. They had 3 weeks of practice and also summer camp. Okay, fair enough. All right, let's begin with this, Kyle, in terms of first off, before we get to the upcoming season and the players that we obviously think that we're going to be seeing a lot of, let's begin with probably the best of them. And his decision to take his talents to Bloomington and the wide receiver out of Lawrence North that is probably going to be the Indiana Mr. Football. Let's recap that, even though it's been a couple of weeks now, in terms of Sales and his commitment to Indiana and what that does mean, not only for him but for Indiana as well, and just the process of that, because that might be the biggest recruit we've seen out of Indiana in quite some time.
Oh, definitely, yeah, and like we've talked about before, I mean, 5-star wide receivers aren't, we don't see that very often here, if ever. So, I think from a standpoint of getting a 6'5", 205-pound, 5-star receiver who's super talented. Obviously, that's a huge deal for IU. It's almost as big a deal, I think, from a standpoint of looking at it as a, sort of like IU is just defending national champion that's able to capitalize on that success and kind of, prove it in recruiting and being able to keep a kid from in the state home. And, that's something we haven't seen a lot of either, where a lot of the top guys, because, he did have Texas, Ohio State. How many times has Ohio State come into Indiana and taken away the top recruits? So, and he had ties to Alabama. There's just a lot of things that, could have led you to think he wouldn't commit to IU. But I knew, even in the last 6 months to a year, he talked really highly of Kurt Signetti and the relationship he had with the coaches there. And, everything kind of pointed that direction, but you still just don't know. Recruiting is just such a, different type of thing. And, when you talk about these high level guys, you get a lot of people coming at you. So, I think from just looking at it as a, this kind of, more evidence, I think, of IU being a blue blood program right now. Certainly that's the case. And then obviously you just get a great player too. And a guy who, he's going to have to go win Mr. Football this year. I think it's a really good class, and there's a lot of really good players that I think have resumes equal to his at this point. So he's going to have to go earn it if he's going to win it. But he's definitely in that on that short list of top candidates.
Well, and clearly one of the guys that he will be lined up with or in the same room with, at least as of now tentatively in Bloomington, is in Brownsburg, right? And we know so therefore, when you look at the wide receiver talent on either sides, basically, if you Indianapolis, but let's talk about teams themselves, Kyle, and just overall. And we'll start with let's say top three. the three teams to you that are the most stout, that you are the most intrigued by heading into this high school football season.
Well, you mentioned Brownsburg and Brandon Sharp, their receiver, who's going to IU. He's a different type of receiver. He'll be a slot where, I think kind of the ideal thing for IU is in the future you have Sharp at, in the slot and Sales, out, on the edge.
Yeah.
So,
it's Josh Downs and Reggie Wayne, right? I mean, it's, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you got your smaller, shifty guy in Sharp, and then you got your big target, long ball, and across the middle in Sales.
Absolutely, two different types that I think will mesh really well together. So, but yeah, Brownsburg, I think you have to start there. I mean, they are the two-time defending champs. They have a lot of talent coming back. You just look at every position. Oscar Fry, their quarterback, who's going to Illinois State. Mentioned Sharp. They've got a really strong running back room. The offensive line has got some new players, but so that'll be a bit of a question mark. But they also have two returning starters, and one of them is going to Kansas. So just really good talent throughout. And that didn't even mention the defense, where you got a defensive lineman going to Missouri, a couple defensive backs who are going Division I. So just talent all over the board. They've kind of built a program there that's just really strong and kind of built on itself every single year. So certainly you start there. But I do think this year, and you mentioned Lawrence North and Munch and Sales, but they are, in that first game they host Brownsburg. So I think we'll get an early chance to see Lawrence North, how they stack up. Their skill positions are as strong as anywhere. Darian Prather, a returning starter at quarterback, who has MAC offers. Isavion Moore, who's in that category short list for Mr. Football candidacy. He's a 3-time 1,000-yard rusher who's going to Purdue. So he's electric running back. He's really, really good. He's so shifty and quick. So we'll see how they stack up. Can they slow down Brownsburg? I think will be the question, how they stack up defensively. So I think you can throw them in there. And then Warren Central, to me, is kind of the team that, and we'll see with them too. They play Center Grove the first game of the year at Center Grove. They beat Center Grove last year in the regional, and they've got a lot of talent coming back. I mean, you got guys who are going to high level programs up and down that roster. Keon Thomas, running back, going to Iowa. Defensively, they have a lot of talent coming back. Sean Fox, who's going to Kentucky at linebacker, one of the top players in the state. Caleb Elkins in the secondary, going to Purdue. The offensive line is still a little bit young, but a lot of experience there too from last year. And then Jack Quillen, their quarterback, is a returning starter. And honestly, their receivers are really strong group too. Almost everybody back from that group. So I think that's going to be a fun team to see. And again, we get to find out right away when they go to Center Grove and play in that opener, just kind of how they stack up. But they're kind of the opposite of last year, where you had, I think, 18 new starters, and now you have just about 18 returning starters this year. So will be really interesting to see how they kind of capitalize on their momentum from last year. And they did lose pretty handily to Brownsburg last year in the semi-state, but I think just that experience of being at that in that game again will help them. So, there's three teams. I mean, there's more. Westfield obviously should be in that group. They're from that north half of the bracket. They've been the team, year in and year out now that's kind of been coming from that area, and Carmel will be pushing them again this year, I think, in that sectional. But 6A is really strong this year. I think it's going to be fun to see, what happens there. And like I said, that week one will give us a pretty good, sense of where at least four of these teams are, very early in the season.
Kyle, we had a discussion. Kyle Neddenrip is my guest. He's on the Swab Men's 2-1 hotline. Yesterday, I think it was yesterday, but this week certainly, I had on the head football coach at Elwood. And I think it's a story that you also had seen. I had seen on social media where they basically were putting out an all-point bulletin in Elwood of, look, we need players. And he's up to 17. He thinks he might get up to 20 once physicals are done. He'd like to have 25 to 30. And in talking to him, and I know at smaller schools it's different than at a Warren or a Ben Davis or a Brownsburg, but the overall enrollment of student athletes within football. We now have, as he was talking about, the era of kids want to stay indoors and play on their devices, or in addition to that, the narrative of a decade strong now of concerns about concussion from a parental standpoint or injuries within football. Is this indicative of simply just smaller schools, smaller town, or is the lack of interest in getting onto the gridiron for young players something that we may see carrying over into bigger schools as we move along?
No, I think it's actually something, and there are other schools out there I know that are struggling. Greenwood Christian is playing a 8-man football schedule this year, and their hope is to get back to 11-man. They're a relatively new program, but it's not just. I know Wabash. They are another school that's struggling with numbers. There are a few others out there that have kind of struggled with numbers. A lot of it is, like you mentioned, the small towns, but I think there's something else. And I don't think it's just football. I think it's girls basketball participation has really cratered. It's kind of surprising considering how much more is put into girls basketball and how much talent is out there. And the top end talent is always getting better. But the lower levels, the junior varsities, the freshman teams, even at the big schools, have struggled to put teams out on the court in girls basketball. So I think it's partly, and I think this applies to football too, is if you're not playing, I think the generation is sort of like if I'm not playing a key role, I'm probably not going to come out for the team. Or if it's just something I'm doing as a secondary or third sport, I'm maybe less inclined to participate. Or just be on a when I was playing, we had at a school that was not very good in football, we had 32 seniors, and kids just played who didn't even play. They didn't even see snaps really, but they would play just to be on the team. And I think that it was sort of a social thing where I think now that social aspect maybe doesn't exist as much, where if you're not playing, it's just not something you're going to do. So I don't know how to write about that, or it might be sort of anecdotal, but I think that's maybe something that's going on that's maybe beneath the surface a little bit that I think is kind of interesting, and I think applies not only to football but other sports as well, and it's kind of a shame, but I think it's just maybe just kind of the way things are right now.
Now, Kyle, you said your school wasn't very good in football. I want to know, you went to what high school?
I went to Lincoln East in Lincoln, Nebraska. We were good in basketball and baseball, but not football.
Lincoln East. I'm going to guess here. You ready? The Pioneers. Is that right? The Pioneers.
Nope. Absolutely not.
Okay? What was your mascot used amongst the major 4 pro sports? Let me ask you that.
Not that I can think of. No.
Okay, the Mustangs, the Lincoln East Mustangs.
No, there is a Big Ten team with our mascot though.
The Huskers? Were you just simply the Cornhuskers?
No.
All right, hit me with it. Spartans. Lincoln East Spartans.
There you go.
Okay, see. No, wait a minute. How did it take you that long to think about whether or not there was a pro sports team that's named the Spartans?
Well, I'm not. I guess because I was trying to think of the hockey.
Okay, fair enough. All right. Lastly, Kyle, and I know my answer is going to be Elwood on this, but as you know, we do this each and every year. In the past, I've had Southport, I've had Indianapolis, Washington, I've had Attucks, I've had I think Beech Grove one year. I've always picked a school that I'm like, you know what, that those kids are working hard. They're not getting the attention they deserve. They don't have maybe some of the same resources as other schools, but they deserve the same amount of love. That school for me this year, I'm on the bandwagon of who, according to Kyle Neddenrip, assign me my team right now, Kyle.
Have you said, did you mention Tech yet? Have you done them?
I'm cool with Tech. I'm always cool with Tech. That's a beautiful campus. My buddy Torian Robinson is a Tech grad, and I went to all of his basketball games, so I'm cool with Tech. I'll take Tech on that. The Tech Titans, baby. I'm all in.
Steve Mormon is coaching there now. He's got a lot of experience, coaching at different schools, and excited to see he's bringing back the wing tee, and hopefully they can rebuild their program. I know they've been low on numbers. They only, I think, have 6 seniors this year, but I know Steve will do well there and do the best he can, and hopefully they can get their program going again.
When the NHL expands and they introduce the Saskatchewan Spartans, you'll be the first person that I let everybody know, Kyle, that the Spartans are back in the professional ranks. Kyle Nedrip, Indianapolis Star. Appreciate the time as always, Kyle.
You bet. Thanks, Jake.
All right, Kyle Nedrip joining us here on the Schwab Men's 2-in-1 Hotline. We come back, we'll get back into what happened last night. Matt Taylor, voice of the Colts, coming up just under 15 minutes from now. And noon today, we will have the new athletic director at Purdue that I hate to say, Lucy, you got some explaining to do, but he probably does that based on yesterday's comments. We'll get into it here at the American Dairy Association of Indiana's Dairy Bar. The big deal, that is the grilled cheese sandwich of this year's Great Indiana State Fair. It's Query & Company here, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
You're listening to Query & Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
I'm not saying that it's some sort of indictment on Eddie Garrison and his social rank within the workplace. But all the cool kids right now are here at the Dairy Bar. We have Mel McMahon that's here. Cam Blankenship is here. We're giving away a Nutra milkshake maker so you can make milkshakes right there in your own home. All right here out in front of the Dairy Bar at the Indiana State Fair. I love the fair. Now, Eddie, at some point, are we going to do a power ranking today?
I don't know if we have time.
Should we do a power ranking?
We're so guest heavy, Jake, that I don't know if we have time to fit in a power ranking.
Power ranking the State Fair food. I mean, we know that number 1 and number 2 are pretty obvious. But I want to know this, Eddie. It is a given. If you come to the Indiana State Fair, it's a given. Everybody, your first stop is the Dairy Bar. You got to get the grilled cheese. Now, I'm a little upset that they no longer do the Swiss on rye. Why they don't? They need to bring that back and just name it after me because, like, I could eat my body weight in them, which is a lot. But having said that, when you, Eddie Garrison, come and walk around, do your lap at the Indiana State Fair. Aside from the dairy bar, your food items of choice. Give me one or two off the top of your head.
I got to get an ear of corn. I have to get an ear of corn.
Okay.
There's no questions.
Okay, fair.
No ifs, ands,
Now,
or buts.
Let me ask you this. Do you get it with the butter on it? Do you have them dip it in, or do you go no butter?
I go butter.
Okay. So ear of corn's one. What else? Anything else jumping out at you?
No, it just depends on what the signature item on the menu is. I usually try one thing. So, like, outside of what's ever at the dairy bar this year, it's the dill, pickle, grilled cheese, and the blue raspberry
The big
milkshake.
dill.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Hans says the ribeye sandwich. Number one stop, ribeye sandwich. Okay, that's good. That's good. But again, all of it's the ribeye sandwich, you have to accentuate. It goes without saying, everything I'm talking about, you accentuate with the milkshake or the milk itself, right? Now, one of the great traditions at the Indiana State Fair, of course, is going and seeing the world's largest boar and then watching the awkward explanation that parents have to give as to why the boar is sleeping on a Nerf football. That is a tradition like no other, right? And if you're just joining the program,
Where have you been?
off the top, I told you, thank you, Eddie, the number of hogs living in Indiana, this has to be an errant statistic. This has to be an errant statistic. Maybe I read it wrong. 4 million hogs living in the state of Indiana. Where are they all living? Do we know that? Where? I mean, I know there are a lot of farms.
The swine
in Indiana,
bar.
but 4 million? They're all hanging out there. Is that right? 4 million of them. Now, I was driving yesterday, heading home last night, and I was at a stoplight right near the State Fair, and there was a trailer next to me. And as I'm sitting at the light, I hear this noise, and of course I have a new car, so I'm extra sensitive as to any noise that takes place, right? You're like, oh my gosh, the new car is already making a rattling noise. It's already making a clicking noise, whatever it may be. I'm sitting at the light. There's a trailer next to me, and I hear this. And I wondered if something was wrong with my car. And then I roll down the window, and I look over, and I realize I believe they were bringing in and I don't know the difference between a lamb and a sheep. Do we know the difference between a ram? A ram is a horned male version of either the lamb or the sheep. Is the lamb the little guy, and the sheep is the female, and the ram is the dude?
A ram is a male sheep, while the term sheep refers to a species as a whole, including males, females, and young.
Okay, so you're telling me, so the lamb is a female sheep and the ram is a male sheep. Is that right?
Yeah. Did you see 465 was backed up yesterday?
May I ask why?
There was a crash that resulted in 18 sheep escaping.
Oh, no. Were they okay?
I believe so. They were able to waltz their way down the highway.
Interestingly enough, this actually happened near a convenience store at 465 and Rockville Road, the Woolworths, which is right there. It hasn't been open for quite some time, but it's now reopened. So wait, you're telling me that 18 sheep escaped? Did you say they corralled the sheep together?
So according to the Indiana Department of Transportation, a pickup truck hauling a trailer collided with two semis near Keystone Avenue yesterday at 3:30. 18 sheep escaped from the pickup and ran across the highway.
But they were okay, right?
Yes.
Now, was one of the vehicles
sheep was
a ram?
injured. Nobody was hurt, though.
Well, the sheep was hurt. And we don't know if the sheep was a man or a woman, whether it was a ram or a lamb. Now, what's a kid sheep called? Is that a kid? A kid is a goat, right? What's a kid sheep called? And then where does you factor into this?
A lamb
Do we know that?
is a young sheep.
A lamb is a young sheep. Okay, then what's a female sheep? If a ram is a male sheep, what's a female sheep? And then they get together and you get a lamb. But what is it? What's the other half with the ram that makes the lamb?
You.
And then where does you factor into this?
You is a female sheep.
Really?
Yes.
Are you serious?
Yes.
Okay. So a ram and a ewe get together and then you get a lamb. Is that right?
Yes.
And then in the portrait, when they go to Olin Mills, that's a sheep photo, right?
Yes.
There'll be a quiz on this later. And there are 4 million hogs in Indiana. Matt Taylor is the voice of the Colts and mercifully joins us next. Back here at the Great Indiana State Fair with the American Dairy Association of Indiana. Remember that. Winners drink milk, by the way. My name is Jake Query. Eddie Garrison, the other voice you hear on this program. We call it Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. And I got to tell you, it is my understanding that we had a marketing team that got together for quite some time and went over and over and over prospective names for this program. They had, as I understand it in their meeting, 7 Big Deal grilled cheese sandwiches and 9 blue raspberry milkshakes from the American Dairy Association before they came up with the name of Query and Company on this show. But you folks, of course, all make up the company, and we're happy that you do so. The company that we keep right now is the voice of the Indianapolis Colts, Matt Taylor, joining us on the Schwab Men's 2-1 hotline. Colts camp last night. It was a night camp for the Colts, if you will, a night practice, one of their longer practices. Matt Taylor, I think last night is really when, and I don't just mean because they were under the lights, but Shane Steichen kind of turning up the wick, to use a racing term, last night in terms of practice, not just in the length of practice, but is it safe to say also in the intensity of the practice?
Yeah, last night, they did this last year too in the night practice. It was really interesting because they treated it was a 2-hour practice, which was their longest practice of camp so far, but they treated it almost like an inter-squad scrimmage in terms of the script and how it was put together. So they started practice last night, and they went through a pregame, like a Sunday pregame ritual of warm-ups. Everything that you would see at Lucas Oil Stadium before a game in terms of warm-ups is what they did last night. And then right after that, they just went right into it with team periods and situational periods. They had a move the ball period where you're stacked up in your own, in your own territory, like at a 10-yard line coming out. They had a move the ball period from the 50-yard line. They did high red zone. They did low red zone. They ended practice with a 2-minute period. And they're doing all of that while still sprinkling in some special teams work throughout the course of practice. So I know Daniel Jones in that starting offense, I think they ran 40-plus plays last night from the line of scrimmage, which is, again, what they did last year. And I think it really aided the Colts well in getting off to a fast start. You know, they were 8-2 to begin the season and 3-1 after the first month. And, you know, as far as that goes, the Colts are using the same script and the same model, if you will. So it's really beneficial for the Colts. And, you know, I agree with Shane. Like, there's a time and place to do 7-on-7, and you got to get your individual work in. And, you know, there's times where all of that stuff matters, and that's pretty much standard across the league, how practices are formulated. But you get better at playing football by playing football. And the Colts ran a lot of plays from scrimmage last night, both between the first unit and the second unit, and they did it situationally, which is what the game comes down to anyway. So I thought it was a great night of practice.
Okay, I've got, Matt, 4 categories here that I'm going to hit you with. Each of them begins with the letter S, okay? You give me a number, and I'm going to give you, and I'm making these up as I go along, so bear with me. I want you to give me a number, and I'm going to give you the category, and then you have to answer who fits that category so far in this camp. Does that sound good?
So they all start with S?
Yeah, that's correct, yeah. And it'll be a fun game to try to guess what the next S is, see, Matt. This is what we do on this program.
I like it.
You know, this is basically like you're playing Let's Make a Deal, right? Like, I'm calling you up here, and it's like, all right, who's got a cannonball in their pocket for $50? You never know where you're going with it, right? So give me number 1 through 4. All right,
give me
1 through 4. Give me a number.
All right, 3.
Number 3 is slumbering, and by that I mean a player or players so far that in this camp, I'm not going to say that they haven't woken up yet, but you kind of expected to see more at this point in camp, and it appears as though they have yet to really wake it up and get going, and there are advantages before them, or opportunities, I should say, that they're not fully taking advantage of just yet. Who would meet that category?
Well, I think it's DJ Giddens, and some of it's through no fault of his own because he's been banged up. He's got an injury, so he hasn't practiced the last couple of days, but he's missing a golden opportunity to be squarely in the mix, to be the backup running back behind Jonathan Taylor. And so right now, the guy kind of taking the bull by the horns in that regard is the rookie Seth McClelland, and he's playing really, really well and is flashing and is showing the Colts that, you know, he can be kind of reliable in the running game. He can catch the ball out of the backfield. He runs really hard. So I just think right now it's just a little bit of an opportunity miss for DJ Giddens, and that's important for him because he's coming off a little bit of a redshirt year, to make an analogy to college football, because he was inactive, I think, for 8 games, only had a carry in a handful of games, and just, had a little bit of a slow indoctrination into the NFL game. And I think, you hear Shane Steichen and some other folks within the coaching staff talk about DJ Giddens in the offseason. The one thing that kind of kept him consistently off the field last year was just that pass protection. And I think he's been doing a nice job in terms of improving there this offseason, but you just got to show it. You got to be consistent, and the most important thing is you got to be available, and he just hasn't been the last couple of days in practice, which is opening up the door for Seth McClelland to show that consistency. And that's the name of the game for the backup running back behind Taylor, is they got to prove that they can be consistent, trustworthy, and reliable. The Colts are just on this quest to find somebody that they trust to give a couple of carries to throughout the course of a game, or heck, maybe even a series or two, probably in the first half, to ensure that Jonathan Taylor is healthy and available for the crunch time moments of games and for the stretch runs of the season. Because last year, Taylor accounted for over 70% of the rushing attempts, which was the highest workload by any one player in the NFL. And Taylor's special because he never showed up on the injury report last year, but it's the NFL. It's war of attrition, and you're kind of playing with fire there a little bit. You need somebody to step up to be trustworthy in the sense that they can back up Jonathan Taylor a little bit more than the depth chart did last year in 2025.
Matt, how is McGowan as a receiving back? Because I think that's an area that Giddens maybe doesn't bring as much as they'd like when you're spelling Taylor. And I don't know, so I'm asking legitimately with McGowan, does he look like a guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield?
Yeah, he does. He looks like the real deal. And, obviously he had some circumstances off the field that drove him down the draft board. And it's a big-time steal for the Colts to get him where they did, because he's a more valuable player than his draft slot would suggest, if that makes sense. So I don't really see a lot of holes in his game. Jonathan Taylor has been very complimentary of him. He catches the ball very well. He gets upfield. He's got great vision. He's got great footwork. And, the biggest thing for a rookie when you're, 6 or 7 practices in, and, sometimes it just feels like the world and the whole playbook is being thrown at you all at once, is just don't make the same mistake twice. Don't make those rookie mistakes over and over. And he's shown a great deal of discipline to make sure that, one mistake doesn't become 2, so on and so forth. So, again, he's, for my money, he has emerged as sort of the leader in the clubhouse to get a lion's share of the backup running back duties behind Jonathan Taylor, which, again, in the past haven't equated to much, but I think the Colts would like to flirt with raising that equation in 2026.
Matt Taylor is my guest. He's on the Swab Ben's 2-1 hotline. He's the voice of the Colts. Okay, Matt, numbers 1, 2, and 4 remaining. Give me a number.
How about number 1?
Number 1. Number 1's easy. Surprises. What in terms of storylines or players, give me something that has surprised you, good or bad, so far in this camp.
Well, I'm a little bit surprised about the linebackers. I have no idea how to handicap that position right now, because the Colts are using up to as many as 6 guys between the first and second team defense. And, some of the guys that were with the 2s yesterday are running with the 1s today, and vice versa. All the way down to the, I don't want to say the bottom of the depth chart in terms of conventional thinking coming into training camp, but guys like Taj Chambers, undrafted free agent out of Ole Miss, he's in the mix. Wes Weeks, undrafted free agent out of LSU. C.J. Allen making that ability to handicap the linebacker position just a little bit tougher, because he's been dealing with injury, right? Started on PUP with a minor calf strain, and now he missed last night with a hamstring, so that's making it a little bit more difficult to predict. Akeem Davis-Gaither in the mix, and a guy that I think is squarely in the mix, and he's been here for the last couple of years, that is Austin Ajike from UNLV. He's got 2 picks so far in training camp, and he's just, again, getting his fair share of run with the first-team defense. So the linebacker is a little bit of a surprise in that I don't know who's going to play there just yet.
Shane Steichen probably loves those UNLV guys, right? That goes without saying.
Oh, yeah. Go Rebels for Shane Steichen, brother.
That's right. Go Rebs. Okay, we got a couple of numbers left here. I believe 1 and 4 we have left.
All right, let's go 4.
Okay, 4 is, and you kind of touched on it with Seth McGowan, and this is more player-specific than unit-specific, like you mentioned with linebacker, and that is sleepers. And by that I mean a guy that clearly, in terms of sleepers, wasn't doing a lot of that and had the alarm bell ready and was ready right from the get-go, and a lot of people maybe didn't expect to be looking at them or hearing their name. You touched on a couple, but somebody that really jumps out at you and you go, man, he is making a real strong case here, and maybe we didn't think so, but they are absolutely one that has to be contended with.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, the guy that comes to mind, and I think it's a little bit of a disservice to call him a sleeper, would be Nick Westbrook-Akine. And he's squarely in the mix to compete for that third wide receiver job with Ashton Dulin. But Rick Venturi and I were actually talking about this the other day. Like, it doesn't have to be so cut and dry and black and white on this is our third wide receiver for every situation, right? I mean, it can be a combination or a mixture of Ashton Dulin and Nick Westbrook-Akine, considering, or I should say, depending on the different situations of the game and down and distances and things like that. Because, I mean, why can't you have Ashton Dulin on the outside as a number 3 or Nick Westbrook-Akine in the slot in the middle of the field as a number 3? He's kind of like that poor man's Michael Pittman Jr. And again, that's probably a disrespectful statement, but I think you get what I'm saying. Like, he is a big body receiver. He can flash inside the red zone. That's where a majority of his career touchdowns have come from. And then Dulin just makes plays no matter where you put him. And Westbrook-Akine is making tough contested catches. Dulin last night had this beautiful, toe tap drag, 2 feet in the back of the end zone touchdown catch last night in a red zone period. So I don't think it's crazy to think that both guys could kind of be a mixture of that number 3. Probably wouldn't see a ton of snaps throughout the course of a game because, A.D. Mitchell last year was the Colts number 3 for a majority of the season. And you go back and look at his snap counts and, his usage Sunday to Sunday. It kind of fluctuated depending on the game and the opponent and things like that, anywhere between 20% of the snaps and 40% of the snaps. So if you combine those or split those two things up between two guys situationally, then you're looking at kind of like niche carved out specific roles for either guy, which I don't think is a bad thing. So I really like the way Nick Westbrook-Akine has assimilated. And when they signed him in free agency, because the Colts did make a slew of moves those first couple of days of free agency in March, bringing in a lot of guys along the defensive line to fortify that behind DeForest Buckner and, the question marks he has going into the season. But the guy that I like personally the most, that got me the most excited, was Nick Westbrook-Akine, because we've seen a lot of what he can do in Tennessee, and I just think he's got more in him than what he has shown in terms of potential at this stage in his career.
How much of, when you look at A.D. Mitchell a year ago, Matt, and that fluctuation of numbers, and then you also look at the two guys that you just mentioned, how much of that is situational and how much of that is truly because of the player? In other words, a year ago, was A.D. Mitchell limited or did he have fluctuation there in terms of his snap count because of scheme and the way they use the number 3, or because A.D. Mitchell had yet to really jump up and evolve himself? And likewise with these two guys, are they getting these reps because they're earning it and they're showing it, or because it's partially out of necessity because of attrition at the position?
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think there's a lot of different components that go into it. I think you're right to say that A.D. Mitchell was still earning trust within the coaching staff and finding what his role was going to be on offense, because Pittman was the dirty work guy. Pierce was the guy on the outside making the big plays, stretching the field, and really making sure the defense was widened and also loosened up from the line of scrimmage. You had Josh Downs in the slot, but also I think this is a huge part of it too. Tyler Warren is not just a tight end. He's like a third receiver out there as well. So the Colts didn't necessarily feel like they had to put A.D. Mitchell on the field, because Tyler Warren could do so many different things and line up so many different places. And based on where he was lined up formationally within the offense pre-snap, it didn't tip the Colts' hand to the defense. So I think that played a part into it as well. And that's the biggest thing about Warren is when he's on the field, yeah, you got 2 tight ends out there, but it's also like you got 3 receivers as well. So you didn't really feel like you had to put A.D. Mitchell on the field because of Warren's versatility and his ability to stretch the field and make big plays. And he's just kind of a mismatch nightmare on, slot corners and linebackers and things like that in the middle of the field when they line them up between the numbers. So, yeah, it's going to be an ongoing story. But right now, if you're asking me, which, thank God I'm not running the football team because you got tough decisions to make. But I would keep both 16 Ashton Dulin and 12 Nick Westbrook-Akine because if you cut both of those guys, or cut one of those guys, I should say, you might not see him again. It's going to be tough to keep one of those guys on your practice squad.
And again, receivers, one of those positions we've learned it, Matt. It is. I'm not going to say it's fungible, but it is one that you have to have depth because there is attrition over the course of the year. All right, last S remaining here would be just overall, and that is summary. And I don't mean necessarily in terms of like, well, this player, that player, but just, we had the ramp-up period, which is a new thing kind of here within the NFL and training camps of the last couple of years where it's just now starting to kind of get real, if you will, and you're going into New England where the team will be next week before they do the joint practices and then get into preseason games. But so far, if this is Matt Taylor showing up for the first week of middle school here on the south side of Indianapolis, and you've got to give your book report on what you've seen so far from this camp that makes it different than years past, your summary is what?
Well, the biggest summary so far, because we had a lot of discussion on this going into camp, the biggest story is that Daniel Jones is a non-story. I mean, it's amazing.
Yeah.
Like his mobility and his athleticism is just, I'm not smart enough to look at him and say, okay, that looks to me like he's 90% or 95%. All I know is he doesn't look like an injured quarterback. He doesn't look like a guy that's not even 8.5 months removed from tearing his Achilles in Week 13 against Jacksonville.
Matt, let me ask you, Matt. Let me interject real quick so that folks know. With that, have we seen now, and I'm asking this almost rhetorically, but have we seen situations? In other words, this is not Daniel Jones just dropping back and doing passing drills. We have seen him have to use the wheels and test out the tires since they have come in from the pit stop, correct? I mean, he has tested the Achilles to this point beyond just throwing drills. Accurate?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, to my knowledge, and Shane Steichen's given no indication that this is not the case. I mean, to my knowledge, everything is out there. Everything is available to him. The entire playbook, the ability to evade the pass rush, scramble, side-to-side movement inside the pocket, bootleg, play action, and rollout. I mean, last night he had a situation where he was going to evade the pass rush, and then he took off. And he started scrambling, and it was the biggest cheer. Well, one of the biggest cheers of camp last night was just him sprinting down the field with football in hand, going full speed and running about 25, 30 yards, a la like he did in that Germany game against the Falcons for a first down on 3rd and 19 or whatever the case was. So it's just I'm flabbergasted. I really am. Like, tip of the cap to him and his maniacal process to rehab this thing and to be a full go and a full participant at the beginning of camp. And I fully believe that he could have done some of this stuff like six weeks ago, which is just even more astonishing. So he's the biggest story of camp in that he's a non-story. He's taken every rep with the first team offense, hasn't missed a day. So it's just so positive in that regard. And then the other positive is just that the secondary looks to be on paper elite. It's got the chance to be really, really good with Sauce and Charvarius Ward and Bynum, and then A.J. Halsey is kind of the leader in the clubhouse now for that strong safety job with Hunter Wohler coming down with a little bit of a hamstring. He's missed the last couple of days, but Justin Wally in there as well. I mean, that's probably what I'm most eager to see on Tuesday in a joint practice against the Patriots. Just is, can that secondary be just as playmaking, against one of the best offenses in the AFC from last year, as it has been at times against the Colts. The Patriots, Super Bowl participants, AFC champs, A.J. Brown, Demario Douglas, Romeo Doubs, Like, they got guys that are going to stress things, and I just want to see the Colts secondary play out and show out well in a joint practice setting. So those are my two biggest summary pieces on both offense and defense. Secondary on defense, Jones on offense, but still questions, right? You mean, who's going to be the third receiver? Who's going to be, where's the pass rush going to come from? We've seen that make some splash plays at times, but consistency is what you got to have. And DeForest Buckner just last night participated in 11-on-11 work in full pads for the first time. So still a lot of things to be answered there.
It is that time of year where Matt Taylor gets to know the kind of the bottom area of the roster of guys that are trying for their chance here in the NFL. It means a lot of names to get to know, but we will, of course, keep track of all of it. Colts getting set to go again. To England and then. All right, Matt, appreciate the time as always. Have a great weekend, all right?
All right, thanks, Jake. You too.
Matt, voice of the Colts, joining us on the Schwab Men's 2-1 hotline. And one thing when he talked about Daniel Jones that I want to reiterate, just my observation, but at this point, to me, it is so glaringly obvious that even somebody, a neophyte like myself, can discover this or see this. And that is, and I mean absolutely no ill will towards the guy at all, because I don't think he's done anything egregious. I don't think that he's been anything other than, by all account, a good teammate, nice guy, clearly a mega intriguing talent, but has yet to really manifest into consistent talent. But unfortunately, having watched, and I watched a fair amount of the practices as best I could when they were opening up camp, and I was doing the show just off to the side. As I was doing the show, I would kind of watch and oversee what was taking place. And then in addition to that, last night in the night camp and just listening to Kevin and watching some of the videos that I saw, and in particular on long snaps, shotgun snaps, rollouts, and things like that. Anthony Richardson was the last one, I think, to buy into this. But I think Anthony Richardson now, unfortunately, has joined the list of Anthony Richardson doubters. I hate saying that, but in watching his body language, and we've all been through this. We've all been in situations where we know that we are in a situation that maybe we're not equipped for, we're not ready for, or we were prematurely put there. And, Dave Letterman once said that, courage is the best of things, but sometimes faking courage is a close second. And I think to an extent, Anthony Richardson, he had like a courage and a belief in himself, especially early on when the Colts just threw him the keys, but they didn't do him any sort of a service because I don't know that he then knew how to react and respond to adversity because he didn't have to face any of it as a young player in the NFL. And as I watch him in this camp, and I know that it's not a storyline because as Matt Taylor said, Daniel Jones is not the storyline, and that actually is the story, that Jones has looked this good. But Richardson, in his overall emotion, his reaction, the way that he has handled moments that are not going his way on the field, he looks like his confidence and his belief is completely gone. And that's not anything earth-shattering or breaking, but I think it means that Riley Leonard at this point is indeed your backup quarterback. And if Daniel Jones were to miss or a spell here or there, and you've got to go with the donut tire, Riley Leonard's going to be that guy as of right now. But also, I don't know what, in fact, they do with Richardson because if he's starting to show a regression in belief, then other teams are going to catch on to that, and his trade value, which was already nil, is even less, even after he's been given the bonus and whatnot. All right, when we come back, it's a Friday. It's the bottom of the 11 o'clock hour. You know what that means. Franciscan Health Feel Good, Good for the Heart Friday. And you're talking about with Franciscan Health, number one in Indiana by health grades, number one in Indiana for interventional coronary care when it comes to care checks and their score and their rating. And the $49 heart scan. I told you just this week, once again, nearly every week somebody points out to me or I get a text from somebody that says, Jake, I had the heart scan. And a lot of times it's the peace of mind that's provided with that. Others say, you know what? I'm glad I did it because now I'm in the system and I'm getting the proper medications and I'm making sure that I am on the right path to a healthy heart. And that's what the $49 heart scans from Franciscan mean to everybody that gets them. FranciscanHealth.org/screening bundles is the website where you can get the $49 heart scan. It's non-invasive, takes less than 30 minutes, and you get a heart health risk assessment with it. But we hear so much about heart health, and then you hear carotid artery disease. I hear all the time, carotid artery disease. And I'm like, I think I know what the carotid artery is, and I think I know what that disease is, but it sounds important. So I wanted to bring on one of the doctors from Franciscan to explain exactly that. We'll do it next. And Tommy McClelland, the new athletic director at Purdue, joins us just over 30 minutes from right now, and he's got some splaining to do. We'll do all of it on the other side here at Franciscan Health Feel Good. Good for the Heart Friday. Next here, Query and Company on the Fan. it's also each and every time that we do so for me, a responsibility and a pleasure just to kind of get people reminders, if you will, or get people up to speed on areas when it comes to cardiovascular health that are of importance. Sometimes that means for me getting to know more about terms that I've always heard but never really known what they mean. That includes the topic today, and here to talk about it, he is a vascular surgeon from Franciscan Health. Dr. Michael Ingram joining me to talk about carotid artery disease. But first, doctor, let me say good morning to you and a pleasure to speak with you.
Good morning to you. Thanks for having me on.
Okay, I want to begin with this. Probably as long as I can remember, I've heard the term, you hear somebody say, oh, grandma's got carotid artery disease. And okay, sure. And I've never really stopped to pay attention to what exactly that does mean. So let's simply begin with the most elementary, and that is, which exactly is the carotid artery and how does it become diseased?
Yeah, absolutely. That's a great starting point. So the carotid arteries, you've got two of them, one on each side of the neck, and they provide the majority of the blood flow to the brain. So you can imagine it's probably a pretty important artery there then. And carotid artery disease is kind of a broad term to just mean that there's a blockage or narrowing of one or both of those carotid arteries that's providing blood flow to the brain.
And with that, is there a particular age? I mean, obviously, when I hear blood flow and brain, the first thing that I think of is, oh, wow, that sounds like something that happens or is impacted when one has a stroke, for example. I could be completely off base. But when you're talking about that area of functionality that is so important, is there a particular age range where, gosh, once you get there, you really need to start paying attention to this, in particular the warning signs?
Yeah, absolutely. It is something that tends to affect people that are older. So we see it most commonly in people that are in their 60s and 70s. But, it can happen when you're younger as well. Kind of all depends on lifestyle and overall health of the patient. So,
when you talk about carotid artery disease, Michael Ingram is my guest, a vascular surgeon from Franciscan Health. Let's begin with that in terms of, and in particular, for all ages. I mean, I hope everybody listening of all ages, whether it be even maybe not for themselves, but for a loved one or somebody that could be affected by carotid artery disease, what are the first symptoms, if you will, that perhaps something may be a bit off?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like you were mentioning, it's something that affects older people, but the development of this blockage starts years before that. So the most important thing is controlling your health, kind of staying heart healthy. So controlling your blood pressure, controlling your blood sugars, making sure you don't develop diabetes or prediabetes, and then staying active as best as possible and avoiding smoking. Should you develop carotid artery disease, the biggest risk that you could have is developing a stroke. Carotid artery blockages can cause up to 15 to 20% of strokes. So it is a major cause of stroke.
Obviously, I know that each time that we talk about one of these things, Dr. Ingram, smoking is such a huge thing, right? That's probably the first step that seems to be across the board something that creates risk for people. But whether it be, let's say that one has made the proper changes in smoking, diet, health, all of those things, how much of this can be genetic?
Yeah, it's hard to say. We do find that it runs in families, so can't put a specific number on it. But certainly, if you have family members that have had blockages in their carotid arteries or other arteries, then you're probably more at risk as well.
Okay, let's do one of our famous hypotheticals here, doctor. We're going to take a patient. We're just going to call him Jim, okay? So Jim is an example of someone that had symptoms of carotid artery disease, went into Franciscan, and in fact, it was confirmed that he had carotid artery disease. Take me through the symptoms he's going to feel, the way that you're going to confirm it, and then what his roadmap is from there in treating it.
All right, do that. So Jim came to my office and he had symptoms of artery disease. There's a good chance that he might have had what we call a TIA or a mini stroke, or maybe a full-on stroke, and hopefully he's gotten a little better. But in the workup of that, he probably had an ultrasound of the carotid arteries or a CAT scan of the carotid arteries, and then he was sent to me to see in the office to discuss getting those fixed. So I would, one, again, look at all of his studies, confirm that he has carotid artery stenosis, and then I would talk to him about different surgical options that we have. So there's two main options. One is making an incision on the neck and taking out the plaque and then sewing the artery back up. And then the other option is putting a stent inside of the carotid artery to kind of trap that blockage up against the walls and open up the artery a bit. Each certainly have their different pluses and minuses. So we'll talk to Jim about that, kind of see where his priorities are, see what his other medical conditions are, and help him decide what the best option would be.
And if there were no further complications and there was success there, Jim would be able to have some return to normalcy under what sort of a time frame from the time that he first finds out about this?
Yeah, it depends on what sort of surgery he has, but generally people are able to get back to their normal within a month or so. It's a surgery that has a pretty quick recovery. It's even faster if you have a stent. But yeah, usually within a month, I tell my patients.
And of course, the most important thing is to be proactive. Talk to your physician. I always mention the heart scan as well. We talk about that each and every Friday for just $49 from Franciscan, just in terms of the first step towards a heart health risk assessment. And then just being aware of not only the heart, but also all of the avenues, all of the highways coming out of the epicenter of 465, as we say, with everything that then moves blood throughout the body. Dr. Michael Ingram is a vascular surgeon from Franciscan Health with this lesson on carotid artery disease, and I've always heard the term. Now I know more about it. Doctor, I certainly appreciate the time, and thank you for your help in helping everybody out, including those listening to the program, and we wish you the best for the weekend as well.
Appreciate it. Thank you for having me on.
Dr. Michael Ingram from Franciscan Health. Again, live here, we are at the Dairy Bar at the Great Indiana State Fair opening day. And coming up, top of the hour, we will have the new athletic director at Purdue, Tommy McClelland, joining us. That coming up just a couple of minutes from now as we roll along here, Friday edition, Query and Company on the Fan. There, Jake Query for Surfside. Look for the can with the sunset stripes. Surfside, which is, of course, iced tea with a splash of vodka. Lemonade with a splash of vodka. Variety of flavors. The blueberry lemonade is outstanding. And don't forget Super Light, the sports drinks also from Surfside. Just 90 calories, and all of them no carbonation, so oh so smooth and easy to enjoy. Perfect for this time of year. Surfside, look for it wherever you buy your favorite adult beverages. But please, with Surfside, be 21 and consume responsibly.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Eddie's spinning the hits, and Brooke Williams, who is the Director of Communications for the American Dairy Association of Indiana, seems excited by the musical selection.
I mean, if I had to choose a walk-up song at this point, it should be that,
Really?
right? I don't know.
Have you gone to see these Savannah Bananas?
I love them.
Do you really?
I do.
Okay.
Yeah. We went to Nebraska to see them in June.
They went to Nebraska?
They played at Memorial Stadium.
Then, aren't they?
They really
right?
are. Yeah.
Okay, so Brooke Williams joining me here. We are at the Dairy Bar at the Great Indiana State Fair, and I love everything about this, as you know. I love the Dairy Bar. I love the State Fair. I love the milkshakes. I love the flavors that you've come up with. This year we have the blue raspberry milkshake, right?
Yep.
I want to know who selects the flavor.
Our team goes in and we always throw some flavors out there, and then we work with Prairie Farms, who supplies all the dairy products here at the State Fairgrounds, and they come back with flavors we've suggested. They always throw in a couple more, but blue raspberry is one we thought about doing last year that we finally did it this year.
I have a dumb question here, and I know that'll surprise you. What's the difference between a raspberry and a blue raspberry, other than
blue.
food coloring?
That's sour.
Okay.
It's a made-up flavor. I don't know. I mean,
you can't go to the store and buy blue raspberries?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I haven't done my full research, I guess, on the origins of a blue raspberry.
Well, I had to ask the origins of, you're wearing the Dairy Bar number 41 jersey here,
Yes.
essentially, and I thought number 41, this shows my ignorance. My first thought was, this must be the 41st year of the Dairy Bar.
No, open since 1941.
That's impressive. Mm-hmm. And it is a bar, right?
It's a bar that you can order food from. It is
Right.
shaped like a barn, however.
But it is a bar, right?
Not getting
The
into
sign,
it.
well, the sign right there, it says Dairy Bar.
Yes.
Oh, you know what? It does say right next to that, since 1941.
Yeah.
I think I've been so excited about the fact it says Dairy Bar, I've never noticed the since 1941 part, but that's very impressive.
Yep.
The sandwich this year is the big deal. Now, this I am excited about, right?
It's very good.
Can I try it later?
Absolutely, yes. Havarti and cheddar cheese with dill pickle slices on sourdough bread. We even threw on some pickle seasoning on the outside.
Really?
It's very good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, there's the pickle seasoning, like the blue raspberry, slightly tart, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
Yeah.
This is, I was thinking about this. Brooke Williams is my guest, the Director of Communications for the American Dairy Association of Indiana. This is obviously the Dairy Bar itself. There are two things about it that I think are really cool. The first is it incorporates a lot of high school kids that are working in there, and a lot of 4-H kids that are involved with the state fair in general. But it clearly is a big fundraiser for you guys. Is this your biggest fundraiser of the year?
I think so, yeah. I mean, I shouldn't say I think so. Yes, to your point, it is. I mean, we're here, right? It's open this year from August 7th to the 23rd. We're here every day except on Mondays when the fair is closed. Every year we have a group that volunteers their time as a fundraiser for their own schools. So today, Lincoln Athletics from Cambridge City, and they're running 10 windows, making sandwiches, doing all the things that it takes. But yeah, I mean, we're thrilled every year that groups want to come and help out because it's a big undertaking. We're open from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. every day. And as you can see behind us, there are lines at every window.
By the way, it's band day today.
Yes.
Packed.
Always packed the opening day.
Who's
yes.
your favorite band?
You know, should I just make it like in general or like a high school marching band?
Well, your favorite high school marching band, I assume, is Zionsville, correct?
Yes,
Okay.
Zionsville High, for sure.
But your favorite band in general? Your favorite,
that's like, how do you have a favorite?
Well, you said you have a walk-up song. You don't have a favorite
I
band?
mean, when you're playing Khalees Milkshake, like there's, that's kind of.
Eddie gets some points for that, right? Remember that Milk song? I used to like that Milk song.
How did that go?
I like milk. And then it pauses and they just go, milk.
No, I don't know
There's a cow
that one.
sound in the background.
I love it. I'll Google it later.
I'm telling you, it's awesome. Okay, here's what we have at the Dairy Bar. We got milk, obviously,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Both white milk and chocolate milk.
Correct.
Okay. Now I'm running a risk here that I'm going to offer something to people that isn't available. So you tell me if I'm wrong. Okay. We got milkshakes.
Yes.
We have that in the vanilla flavoring.
Yeah.
We have chocolate flavoring. Mm-hmm. Chocolate vanilla swirl.
You can special request that.
Yeah. Well, that's when I'm working. That's
Yes.
what I do. It's one of my specialties. Okay. Any other flavor?
Strawberry.
Strawberry. And then obviously the blue raspberry,
Correct.
right?
Yep.
Okay. Now, what do you call the Scoop
Hand
ice
dipped.
cream. Hand dipped.
Yeah.
Hand dipped ice cream?
Hand dipped ice cream.
What flavoring?
This year, our new one is birthday cake.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Birthday
So
cake.
we have birthday cake, butter pecan, chocolate, vanilla, strawberry, and moose tracks, which is always a fan favorite.
Birthday cake is basically just cake, right?
I think so. I haven't tried it yet. I need to do that.
I mean, is there a difference between, like, because for my birthday, we do a specific kind, I mean, cake in general, any cake is a birthday cake, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Kind of like, Eddie, that we learned earlier, isn't
Yeah.
any ewe a lamb?
Yes,
Or any lamb
that
a
is
ewe?
that
Or
is
it the
yeah, that is correct.
No,
Now,
it's-
I do have a question.
No,
Jake.
Okay.
You have the famous chocolate and vanilla swirl. What if I wanted?
Yes, oh, yeah.
What if I wanted chocolate and strawberry? Are you able to make that happen?
Absolutely.
Okay, good.
I mean, listen, and Brooke will attest to this, and it's my favorite day of the year, although I'm not going to lie to you, haven't been invited yet
I
this
know.
year.
It just hasn't. The request is there. It's coming.
But listen, I have that actually as an alert on my phone for when the email comes through. But I make a mean high stack milkshake, do I not?
Jake makes a milkshake that if you don't eat it by the time you just turn around, it's going to flop over and melt on the ground.
It is a skill that I have. Yeah. It is a very strong skill that I have. By the way, we have Brooke. You're as the director of communications.
Yes.
I have a communication question for you.
Okay.
I'm sure that you saw yesterday the Purdue athletic director in his press conference. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As the director of communications, as you were watching it, when he said, we're going to let kids know that if they want to win championships, they come to Purdue, and if they don't want to win, they go to Indiana.
Uh-huh.
And he's, as they say in Ted Lasso, he's catching some guff for it, right?
Yes.
Because Indiana's the reigning national champion.
Right.
So he's going to join the program coming up here in, what, Eddie, about 10 minutes from now, did you say? Somewhere in there?
12 minutes.
12 minutes. Should I just start it out by saying, what was that all about? As the director of communications, if you were to advise me, do I get right to the point here? Mm-hmm. Or do I nurse it along slowly and then just say, by the way, you've gone viral. What's up with that? Which way do I play it?
I feel like this is about my pay grade in this moment.
You're the director.
You're
the director of communications.
Yeah, you know what I would say, regardless of where you go to college, winners drink milk.
Look at that. Mm-hmm. Okay, look at that.
Yeah.
That was a nice segue from that, right?
Yeah.
But I'm going to ask him, I think, directly.
Yeah,
right
I think you will.
Winners do drink milk. As a matter of fact, this year, every year since
1936.
This was the 70th year, or no, the 90th year,
Yeah.
right?
Mm-hmm.
The 90th year of the great milk tradition, when Louis Meyer began it in Victory Lane, and then, of course, this year, and you know, Joseph Newgarden has been great for that because he got to know. We always talk about this. He actually went to and got to know the farmers, right? Felix Rosenquist. Now, this is my only thing, and you can't say this, but I will. I wish he would have gone right there and done the milk immediately.
I think there's a lot that happens now when a winner crosses the finish line, right?
Well, especially like that, right?
Yeah, but our dairy farmers, they're ready. Regardless of how long it takes, they're there.
How many dairy farming is critically important to the state of Indiana? There's no question about it. To the commerce. How many dairy farms roughly, or do we know, there are across the state?
Almost 700 in Indiana.
Did you see the sign that there's 4 million hogs living in Indiana?
I mean, I don't remember what the number of cows is, but it's pretty substantial as well.
Is it really?
I don't think as many as hogs, but yeah, I mean,
4 million seems heavy though.
Yeah, that is. We do
That's
not
a
have
lot.
that many cows. Yeah,
I
else
mean,
we would be producing.
Do
more
we know
milk.
where all 4 million are living?
Not at my house.
I was kidding. I mean, honestly, you know what I mean? I'm like, 4 million seems like I know that it's an agricultural state, but 4 million seems heavy, right?
Yeah.
Okay, blue raspberry, the big deal. Now, also the same thing. Who comes up with the sandwich ideas?
Again, we try it. This year, we actually have a chef that works inside of the dairy bar, Ross Katz, who's known kind of in the food environment in Indianapolis. But he helped us create the menu this year, came up with a few kind of, twists to a regular grilled cheese. Year after year, it's hard to come up with a new grilled cheese.
You know what would be a great grilled cheese?
What?
Swiss on rye.
On rye. Yes, Jake's favorite Swiss on rye we took off the menu 2 years ago because it was not selling very well. That's why it was removed. But so was mine, Munster on cinnamon raisin. That was always my favorite, and they took that one off the menu
too. Did you like it because
too.
of the Munster or because of the cinnamon raisin?
Both. Well, yeah, the cinnamon
Munster.
raisin, but it was good. You could have it for breakfast.
It's a nice like offset, right?
Yeah. But no,
I-
so the big deal came just as another one.
And I'm excited to try the big deal.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then next year, I'm super excited for the Swiss on Rye that will make a triumphant return, right?
We'll see. Yeah.
Wait, so you saw the Savannah Bananas?
I did. We've gone for the last 4 years.
It's bigger and bigger and bigger, right?
Yeah.
When does it jump the shark?
We'll see. Like, I'm still very loyal to Savannah Bananas. I know now you have the party animals and the firefighters, and they're all playing each other and, trying to make a league. I still like just the Savannah Bananas.
Are the other teams the same fella that started the Savannah Bananas?
Yeah, all Jesse Cole. Mm-hmm.
That's the guy's name?
That's the guy's name. The yellow. The man in yellow.
And so because, honestly, several years ago, I was on a road trip, and I was going through Savannah, and I thought, well, maybe I'll check and see if there's like a minor league team. Yeah. And I saw them, and I don't know, were they at one, and I don't know how or why I would expect you to know this.
I know quite a bit, yeah.
Were they at one time a legitimate minor league team that then decided to start doing fun antics?
So they were a team that he purchased because they were not successful. Like, they just weren't, they were basically going under. And so he was hired as the marketing guy, decided, like, what can I start doing to bring people in? So he started making it more fun. I was trying to pull up a picture of Memorial Stadium with the Savannah Bananas. It was quite the sight.
Memorial Stadium has sold out in Lincoln, Nebraska for Nebraska games since 1941 when the Dairy Bar, right, first began. And there were probably more people for the Savannah Bananas. Is that right?
It was sold out again.
What's that big bar that's right across from the stadium? Is it Barry's? It's either Barry's or Switzer's. I just remember thinking of Barry Switzer. But
you're talking more now. You're like down at Omaha World Series.
This was right outside of Memorial Stadium. When I was in Lincoln. For those that don't know, Brooke Williams, by the way, went to college in Nebraska and has family from Nebraska, and therefore her knowledge of Nebraska. But I went to Nebraska was playing Michigan.
Yes.
And my buddy and I decided that we at least needed to experience like the tailgate aspect of it. And we were just going to go. We were on a road trip. We were going to stop. I was obviously driving on the trip. My buddy Byron drank 9 Busch Lights in 14 minutes and then was hell-bent on the fact that we were going to go to the game. And 2 guys from Nebraska said, I have 2 extra tickets, and you can stay at my house tonight.
See? The best people you'll ever find.
They were very friendly, but we opted against it. Okay. Yes, now there's a lot of red in there. Are those confused folks?
Well, it's like you're a Nebraska fan confused why Savannah's Bananas are playing in your stadium.
I mean, it's sold out.
I know.
There's like 100,000 people
They brought back Tom Osborne. I mean, it was just a whole deal.
And it was just one game?
They played one night at the Haymarket and then one night at Memorial Stadium.
The Haymarket.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's
a very small field in Nebraska.
You know what? Now that I think about it, we went in briefly, just long enough to say hey, and then I went on about my way.
It's good.
Okay, thanks. Okay, one more time. The big deal is give me the ingredients here.
Havarti, cheddar, dill pickle slices on sourdough bread with pickle seasoning.
What kind of cheese is Havarti cheese?
A mild, I would say.
Okay.
Both of those are mild.
Okay, and then then dill pickle slices, and then a little
pickle seasoning.
Okay, and then the blue raspberry milkshake.
Yep.
Along with strawberry shake, vanilla shake, chocolate shake, all available. Dairy Bar since 1941. Right here, right across. If you're coming out to the Great Indiana State Fair, you know where the Dairy Bar is. But in case you do not, it is right across from the Coliseum. All right, Brooke, we're going to do some food tasting. I just made this declaration at the bottom of the 12 o'clock hour.
I've got some food for you to try.
All right. Well, I appreciate that. Yeah. We will do exactly that. But before that, we will talk to the new athletic director at Purdue University. Clearly made a lot of waves yesterday. Now, there was more in terms of the vision of being an athletic director, the challenges of being an athletic director, and what exactly he has in mind for Purdue. And I will talk to him about that, but I also want to get to the comments made about Indiana. So they said he'd join at noon, and that's exactly what we're going to do when we come back to the Great Indiana State Fair here. Again, Dairy Bar for the American Dairy Association of Indiana. You are listening to Query & Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Just a couple minutes from now, the new athletic director at Purdue is going to join us, Tommy McClelland. And, we may have to play the clip and then just ask about it. But we are at the Dairy Bar, as you heard me mention here, for the opening day of the Indiana State Fair. It is band day here, and there are tons of people here. One of the great things that I like about the fair is also you see people from all over the state. I mean, it's not just Indianapolis, obviously. A lot of it are people from outside the central Indiana area that are here for the different aspects, whether it be kids showing things for 4-H or different artists with their things on display. I ran into Sarah earlier, who was super excited because she was going to go see her cross-stitch that was on display here at the State Fair. So there's a lot of very cool things happening at the State Fair. Brooke, the fair runs till when? The 23rd of August. So opening day today, running through the 23rd. Matt Taylor joined us earlier. You heard us talking about Colts camp last night. It was a night practice for the Colts. 2-hour practice. Things definitely starting to ramp up a little bit in terms of the intensity. That goes without saying when you have 2 hours. And really the storyline in Matt and what he explained, I think, is very true. And that is that the story is that there isn't a story. And by that I mean Daniel Jones. Daniel Jones still playing at this point at the level that he is when you expect, okay, are they going to ramp it down at all because of the Achilles? I think the governor's off. And yesterday they were using him in terms of the play itself. With rollouts, he was showing the mobility that makes him what he was. He had a huge play in Atlanta, or when they played Atlanta in Germany last year. You know of his mobility, and you wondered what that would be. And so far, amazingly enough, with that Achilles, it appears as though everything is good. Now, that's big also and every body is different. And I remember when we talked to Ralph Reif about Achilles injuries and the repair of that, and he was saying so much of that as well is really where the injury was, how high up on the Achilles. And I don't know from Daniel Jones' case to Tyrese Halliburton's whether or not they are close to one another or how that relates. So it is unfair and certainly non-scientific to immediately associate one recovery to another. But as an Indiana sports fan, at the very least, you're optimistic. Okay, good. We have one down and now one to go in terms of, and certainly we hope that Daniel Jones, that continues to be the case. Last night in Achilles for the Fever was two things. Number one, late turnover. Saw a late turnover from Caitlin Clark after she had missed 2 free throws that realistically one of those two probably puts it away for Indiana. But it was a great game. When the Fever and Aces get together, and they have played well against Las Vegas, it was a great game. But, Eddie, we talked about this earlier, and I want to touch on it again real quick before Tommy McClelland joins us, and that is simply the fact that it is so easy, and I've always said it. I mean, last night when they were up 3 and Vegas has the ball to come down out of bounds, and I'm thinking to myself, you have to foul up 3. You have to foul up 3 because at the most they can do then is 2 free throws, then you get the ball back. Unless they hit one, miss, get it back, kick out, but there was such limited amount of time. But you were explaining to me afterwards, Eddie, and you were working the game as the producer, of course, for the radio network, the fact that Stephanie White and Aaliyah Boston did offer explanation as to the decision to not foul in that situation, and that was not an oversight. That was by design that they let that play out and let Las Vegas get that shot that they hit.
We knew what was coming, and we were right there. I mean, we had talked about fouling, but they're so good, and they're such veterans that if you get your hand in there just a little bit late, they're going to go up into the shot, and they're going to bait you, into that. In that situation, that's a 50-50 ball that we just got to come up with. I mean, AB read it perfectly. Her timing was perfect. It's a loose ball, and, it bounced their way. We got to come up with that play.
And that's, look, I'll give them credit for, that is obviously an example of where something was more thought out than the general public, myself included, would have thought when they were watching it work in real time. Kind of like I've wondered, and maybe Tommy McClelland, I believe we have him now. So I've wondered the comment about Indiana in his press conference. Was it off the cuff? Was it thought out? I'm going to ask him that. But, Eddie, I guess before I ask him, let's all hear it one more time. Yesterday, Tommy McClelland being introduced as the athletic director at Purdue.
Every recruit and every current student athlete will hear this message repeatedly. We are here to win championships. If you don't want to win championships, go to Indiana.
Tommy McClelland is the 5th athletic director at Purdue in the post-war era, so this is obviously a position that has had great stability, and he joins me now on the Schwab Men's 2-in-1 hotline. And before we get into, because there's a lot I want to get to here about Purdue athletics and just the new era of college athletics, but Tommy, I'll begin with this because we just heard the comment there, and I guess I'll just ask at this point blank, what was that? What was the comment all about?
Yeah, Jake. Well, first of all, thank you so much for having me. Look forward to getting to know you and being on your show more often in the future. You know, the last several days has just been an incredible opportunity for me and my family. As we've arrived here in the greater Lafayette community, we've had an incredible warm welcome. And yesterday was another banner day of that, being able to share the vision and the hope and the optimism and the where are we going, the trajectory of Purdue athletics and what can be. And in the midst of that great day, I made an off the cuff remark about an in-state rival as a joke that didn't land well. And I knew it immediately as it came out of my mouth. And, you know, listen, sometimes it's like taking the ball on the first tee and putting it in the lake. You got to tee it up. The good news, Jake, is that we've got 18 more holes. We've got to keep going. The thing that bothered me probably more than anything is it becomes a distraction to what the focus is, right? I want to get the attention on where are we trying to go? How are we going to get there? We've got 600,000 living alums, 55,000+ students, an incredible state. We've got an incredible opportunity ahead of us. And the last thing I want is an off-the-cuff remark to be a distraction to what the real goal is here.
You know, and with that, Tommy, and I can appreciate and respect that, you know, and obviously this is an intense rivalry. I mean, probably one of the top 5 most intense rivalries in the country. And, you know, Indiana realistically has 8 times the number of national championships of Purdue. And that obviously became the storyline throughout. How difficult was, I guess, the last day or so for, you know, since the comment, just in terms of, did you know when you said it, oh boy, this is going viral?
Well, I wouldn't say I knew it had been viral. I knew as soon as I said it, I probably shouldn't have said that. And again, it wasn't even in the script. You know, you're in a room full of great, wonderful Purdue supporters, and you're talking about your rival. Hey, listen, I look forward to being a part of that rivalry. But what we're trying to do here is to say, hey, we have the ability and the resources. We have the personnel. We've got incredible coaches, and our student athletes are remarkable. We have the fan base to do great things, and trying to raise the bar and raise the horizon of what's possible for us. Well, what I don't want is I got to take the focus off me as much as I can, because that was not the intention. It's what happened, and put the attention back on our student athletes, which is where it belongs. And it's not about another program, and it's not about me. It's about who we are and where we are headed.
With that, when you took the job and you looked at the landscape of athletics at Purdue, I want to go back to something you said there in the beginning. You were worried the comments took away from what the overall goal or what the overall vision is. What is the goal and vision that Tommy McClelland has for what needs to be done with Purdue athletics?
Yeah, again, that in that same context of while we're on the phone today, we're talking about we want to develop champions, period. And we're going to define that in 3 ways. One, in the classroom. And when a student athlete walks across the stage at Purdue University and they earn a degree from this amazing academic institution, we're going to celebrate that like a championship, because they've earned it. When you win championships, you earn it. You know, they don't reach into a box like a lottery and pull out names. You have to do the things required in order to win that championship. So we're going to celebrate the academic achievements of our student athletes, culminating with graduation. The second point on that is we're going to celebrate it in sports. Like, the point is we keep score. And so when our student athletes as a team or individually in some sports win championships, have great achievement, set new records, we're going to celebrate that, because that is the desire and that's the goal. And then the third point of that is that how we're going to develop champions is we want to make sure they're champions in life. How do they go on to do great things in their field that doctors and lawyers and teachers and educators are Pro Bowl Hall of Fame quarterbacks? Like, we want to celebrate them in life as they go on, because when you earn a degree from Purdue, when you have won championships from Purdue, and then you go on to make a difference into the world, then you truly are a champion in all aspects of it. That's the focus and that's the goal.
It is such a different landscape now, Tommy. Tommy McClelland is my guest here, the new Purdue athletic director. When you look historically, like I mentioned, you're the 5th athletic director, since World War II at Purdue. So this is a position that has had stability. But yet, I don't know that any of your predecessors have really been in, Mike Babinski, obviously, to an extent, but it would be in the latter part of his tenure, this new frontier of NIL and collectives and transfer portal money and all of that. And the thought process for fans, I think, is you go out and you solicit for money. But is there a difference between soliciting for money from boosters and generating money within your athletic program internally?
Yeah, it's exactly right. So it's all of those things. I think what happens is when people think about, I've heard this in recent days. People say, "Oh, this guy's a great fundraiser." I've never led a development program, so I've never actually been a quote fundraiser. I've been an athletic director who understands that resources are required in order to support the goals and objectives of our athletic department. And so those things come in the form of philanthropy and of asking donors to support. That is actually a very vital thing. And we have, I think, 20,000 roughly John Purdue Club members. That's incredible. We've got to continue to grow that. That's going to be vital. But then there are other aspects through corporate relationships, through other mechanisms. We have to think about our facilities in a different way. A facility that's primarily used for playing sporting events has to be reimagined in a way that says, can other things be in here? Concerts, festivals, meetings, wedding receptions, whatever. All of those things have to be on the table in order to say, hey, how are we producing revenue streams that are continual from the things that we already own and operate?
What resources is Purdue lacking? If I had to put it that blunt, when you come in, you look at it and you say, this is an area of a resource we need to build.
Well, I think, day 2 here, I haven't fully dived into where we are exactly with those things, but I would say it this way too. Whether we are lacking or whether we have plenty, we will still achieve more. So it doesn't really, to what extent we are now is irrelevant, because we have to grow it from where we are. Even if we are in relative terms at the top, we want to continue to grow it.
Tommy McClelland is my guest. Tommy, the reality is that in today's college athletic landscape, football is the big-time revenue generator. And at least from the outside perspective, the thought is that football is the one that really is the biggest gear that gets everything running, okay? Look no further than Indiana and what they were able to do and turn that around. And I hate to bring that up, but they are the reigning national champion, Indiana, right? When you look at Indiana, does that ironically enough give blueprint? Is there anything you can look at with that and say, this is what needs to be done, or what did they do to turn around a program that truthfully was in the same spot that Purdue finds itself in right now just 2 or 3 years ago? And by that, I mean lagging behind in the conference and then quickly jump-starting it.
Yeah. Well, one of the great things about college sports is rivalries. And it creates this tension and, awareness or, impressions as it may yesterday. But what that also does is it creates comparison, and then people have to adjust. So I think great rivalries make people better. Listen, I'm certainly aware that Indiana won the national championship. I was at the game with my son. And so I'm competitive. I want to win. And so because they're a rival and we see them do that, then it presses us to begin to question, hey, how are we doing? How can we move forward? And when we have success, I promise you they're doing the same because that's what rivals do with each other.
You have been in this capacity at McNeese State, Louisiana Tech, Vanderbilt, Rice. When you look at it, I think players, oftentimes if you talk to players that played professionally, they'll say, I learned a little from each coach. I learned a little along the way from each culture. Mm-hmm. Which of those stops do you think most you carry with you in terms of pillars of your learning that you will apply at Purdue?
I think it's all of them. I'm a sum of all those parts, right? And so at McNeese, I had the opportunity to become an athletic director at a very young age at a place that was thirsty for change and innovation, gave an opportunity to a young administrator. And, I learned a lot there, learned a lot from our coaches. I had the opportunity to go to Louisiana Tech and tremendous experience there, had great success in multiple sports. Vanderbilt obviously is in the Power Four, and so you have a sense of what that feels like and what that takes to compete at this level. So certainly that is very relevant. I think the academic environment is very similar as well. And then, Rice University, not in the Power Four, but again, similar in terms of academic and integrity and how are we going to grow something and make it better than where it was. But I'm a sum of all those parts. And listen, the ultimate thing is, I've said this to everyone that I've visited with over the last several days is, I have to become the Purdue athletic director I am now in title, but I have to become that over time by listening and learning and then leading. And so I have to spend time with our alums, with our staff and coaches and the people that are around here to absorb and listen to what they're saying. Where are the gaps? Where are our strengths? Where are the things that we should do? What are the things you should not say? Okay. And so I have to learn those things. And then that gives me the posture to then formulate a strong identity of who we are and move forward. Because this isn't Rice or Vanderbilt or Louisiana Tech. This is Purdue. And we've got to take Purdue from where it is now to where we want it to go.
Are we on the verge? Tommy McClelland is my guest. The SEC and the Big Ten notably. I mean, you were at Vanderbilt, as you mentioned, Power Four. Obviously now Purdue, Big Ten, Power Four. And I know this sounds crazy, Tommy, but I've wondered it for a while. Are we on the verge of the potential of the Power Four themselves, or maybe one or two of those leagues kind of breaking away, seceding, if you will, from the NCAA and looking at it and saying, we have enough revenue generation. We have enough television contract. We don't need necessarily the bylaws that the other schools are contending with. We're going to do our own deal. Am I crazy?
Well, there's certainly a lot of conversations around that, right? And my opinion on that would be solely based off of what I've read from Houston, Texas. So I've got to get in the room, understand a little bit better from what Tony, our Commissioner Tony Petitti's position is on that. But everything that I would have on this at this point in day two would simply be what I've experienced and read from afar. There is a lot of conversation around that. I think there's still some road to go on this bill, but something is required here, whether it's that bill, whether it's some form of self-governance, whatever it is, in order to stabilize the system, so that we do not continue to have just this, what we've experienced over the last two cycles, where it's just this unfettered growth and transformation. This doesn't feel stable. And so we've got to continue to work together with our Big Ten colleagues, with our SEC colleagues and other Power Four colleagues to figure out how are we going to do this. And right now there's a pathway in Congress. We'll see where that goes. And then from there, we'll have to figure out what's next.
Tommy, I can't believe, and I appreciate the time before we let you go, because I'm sure you are right now drinking water from a fire hose up in West Lafayette with anything that comes with moving a family here. And my understanding is, you're going to assimilate here and take over the reins from Mike Babinski fairly quickly. I want to give you this opportunity before we let you go, or I'm curious what you would say before we let you go. And that is two parts. What would your message right now, I'm going to give you the platform to do so, to Indiana fans and to Purdue fans in conclusion?
Yeah, I think the message to Purdue fans is, hey, listen, I'm excited to be here. I'm looking forward to meeting as many and all of you as possible, 600,000, so it may take me a minute, and helping to share with you the vision of what I think is possible here. And again, to the Purdue fans, we should not take a backseat to anyone. We want to make sure that we understand that we have the ability to achieve great things, and that is what we are trying to accomplish.
Anything to Indiana fans?
Look forward to seeing you in Bloomington.
The second hole is awaiting you, Tommy. There's 18 of them to play, right? And that's the beauty of sport. That's what we love about it.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, I think that, anybody that has done their job or their whatever their craft is long enough, I think there's been times where you think maybe I'd have done that differently. I think that's certainly the case for me yesterday because, again, it's not about, the focus has to be on our student athletes, our coaches, and what our mission is. We've got to focus on Purdue and no one else.
Tommy, I appreciate the time. Certainly welcome to the Big Ten, welcome to the state of Indiana, and welcome to Purdue. Look forward to talking to you over the course of your time as a Boilermaker, and certainly appreciate the time today.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it, Jake.
Again, Tommy McClelland, very much apprecited. The fifth since the start of the Indiana Dairy Bar. Athletic director at Purdue University. Interesting stuff there, a lot to unpack from it, notably, and I know that so much is going to be focused on the comment. And I thought it was interesting, especially right there, what he just said. We all have times where we'd like to do something differently, and I didn't know how he was going to react. I didn't know if he was going to say, yeah, I said it and stood by it, and I don't know how Purdue fans will react to, would he have been better off saying, hey, I said it and I stand by it. Probably once you said those comments, it was probably a damned if you do and damned if you don't in terms of your reaction to it or what would have been the appropriate reaction to it itself. But I did just see, and I appreciate it, Nathan Baird just from the Indianapolis Star, just pointed out to us, and I always forget, and my apologies on this, because I always get Nathan Baird and Nathan Brown mixed up. But it is Indy Star, and he is the Purdue writer, is Nathan Baird. Nathan Baird just actually sent out a couple of comments from that interview. So my guess is that would mean that Nathan's listening. Eddie, let's grab him. We're going to grab him next, right? Nathan Baird to get his overall reaction, not just to that, but also where Purdue is from a football standpoint. Sound good?
Yes.
All right, we will do that on the other side. Nathan Baird from the Indianapolis Star will join us again. The American Dairy Association Dairy Bar, Blue Raspberry, the milkshake. The big deal is the sandwich, and I think Brooke's going to bring me a big deal here coming up, the sandwich, in just a little bit. But we'll talk to Nathan. We'll do it on the other side. Query & Company here from the Indiana Dairy Bar at the Indiana State Fair. It's Query & Company on the Fan. Hey there, Jake Query for Chicago's Pizza. Chicago's Pizza started in 1979. I'm here at the Indiana State Fair, and you see all around, you see fantastic Indiana traditions like Chicago's Pizza. I'm at the Dairy Bar. Of course, when you think of dairy, you think of cheese, like the fabulous cheese at Chicago's Pizza, melting right there into that crust that was hand-rolled, handmade this morning, along with the hand-rolled breadsticks from Chicago's Pizza. You get all of that, the pizza options. The deep dish, you get traditional pizza, you get the dessert pizza, the fresh made hand-rolled breadsticks, and a salad bar with all the fixings. You have actually still another hour to get to the lunch buffet, soft drink, all of that. You get everything I just mentioned, plus a soft drink for a price that you can't beat at Chicago's Pizza, 19 Central Indiana locations, 26 across the state of Indiana. Chicago's Pizza is the very best. Find a location near you at chicagospizza.com. Don't forget, Friday night, why not make it pizza night tonight, the family meal deal, 2 medium, 1-topping pizzas for just $25, and that includes the hand-rolled breadsticks as well. Chicago's Pizza. Find a location near you at chicagospizza.com.
Hi, I'm Tom Shane, third-generation owner at Shane Company. As a family jeweler for almost 100 years, we're known for doing right by our customers. Our legacy of integrity depends on it. We stand behind our engagement rings with our all-inclusive free lifetime warranty. We handpick the most beautiful diamonds, then negotiate for the best price. At Shane Company, we put you first because a friend always has your back. Shane Company, your friend and jeweler.
Welcome to AutoZone. What are you working on today?
My car is making this noise. Sometimes it's like doot doot, and sometimes it's like grrrr.
Do you have a dash light on?
Oh yeah.
Then we don't have to listen for clues. With the free Fix Finder service, we can read a check engine, ABS, or maintenance light to find the likely fix and even recommend a local shop if you need one.
So you don't need to hear the grrrr.
Not with Fix Finder. Free at every AutoZone.
Get in the zone, AutoZone.
Restrictions apply.
Query and Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
Here, tons of it at the Indiana State Fair in front of the Indiana Dairy Bar. And we are, I don't know what's going on here, but all of a sudden, like, the peanut gallery's laughing at me. I don't know if it's something I said or what's going on there. But nonetheless, I've had fun today, and we will continue to do so. Thank you to Tommy McClelland for joining us today. And let's bring in now from the Indianapolis Star on the Schwab Men's 2-in-1 hotline. He is the beat writer for Purdue Athletics, Nathan Baird, who was at the press conference yesterday. So, Nathan, I will begin with this. And it's maybe water under the bridge now, especially now that we've heard more from Tommy McClelland. But being at the press conference yesterday, In the moment that the comment was made, could you tell in that exact moment that it was going to go as viral as it would become?
Oh, yeah. I was doing a live blog with our coverage for the Indy Star, and I wasn't paying attention to what was happening on social media, but just I flinched at it. And listen, we can sympathize to some extent, I guess, with what Tommy is saying about everybody, at one point in their life or another making a comment that they wish they could take back immediately. And I think he's right that the worst part about it is that on a day where Purdue is supposed to be, celebrating its future and laying out a vision for the future, it kind of gets bogged down in this, and it overshadows everything else he was trying to say and other people were trying to say. So, yeah, an unfortunate misstep out of the gate, but also a misstep at your first press conference you would hope doesn't end up defining your whole tenure.
Well, I think the thing that's going to be hard, Nathan, and I say this in defense of him, but the precedent around here from a fan base standpoint, from a sports fan standpoint, whether you're a fan of Indiana or Purdue or not, I think the reason why the irony of the comment itself or why it is so scrutinized is because it did invoke to people the imagery and the recollection of Curt Cignetti saying and being similar in that fashion when he got the job at Indiana. And then, of course, with Curt Cignetti, they end up winning the national championship. So it's almost like there's a bar set there, and he entered himself where, unfortunately, anything shy of that, it's going to be like, well, you fell short of it. And that's kind of the unfair irony of it. But athletic director, how much imprint does the athletic director truly have in terms of the overall wins and losses from one game to the next?
Yeah, I mean, that is part of it. I did sort of think to myself, maybe I need to go in and I've been working ahead on some football preview things, so I need to go in and adjust my final predicted score for the IU game a little bit up on the Hoosier side. That maybe Curt Cignetti would take this out on Purdue a little bit. But no, and again, if you go back to those comments that Curt Cignetti made, it was a reaction to the IU sucks chant that Purdue used for many years and that I always thought was pretty lame. And then on top of that, it was about trying to lift up a specific program that probably didn't think highly enough of itself and didn't expect enough of itself. And maybe there was some of that was buried within what Tommy McClelland was trying to say there. I do think that while it was a bit of a gaffe, thematically, it didn't really stray that far from a lot of things he was trying to say, which was Purdue's going to have to be bold. I don't think you want to be reckless the way maybe that comment was, but I think Purdue has to be bold from a revenue generation standpoint. It has to not be willing to accept its own limitations or outside limitations. It's got to push beyond those. So it's the way that it kind of set the stage for Indiana, and Curt Cignetti went out and, gave himself a high standard to have to meet and then did it and then some. I guess that's now on Tommy McClelland's shoulders to try to do the same thing. It's just going to be over a longer time frame.
What challenges, and I asked him this. Nathan Baird is my guest. He's on the Schwab Men's 2-1 hotline. He is the beat writer for Purdue Athletics at the Indianapolis Star. What challenges does he most face? If you were Mitch Daniels and you're sitting down with, or Mike Babinski, and you're sitting down with Tommy McClelland and you're saying, okay, in reality, in terms of the duties right now that sit before you, the number one thing that we need to get addressed is what? Did we lose Nathan?
I think we did.
Okay, I didn't know if we lost Nathan or Nathan lost us. I didn't know which it was. By the way, since we're at the State Fair, I'm going to throw my cousin on here because he's a huge Purdue guy. My cousin Doug, he has no idea that I'm putting him on the radio. But Doug, did you ride your bike down to the great Indiana State Fair? Is that correct?
Yeah, on the Monon Trail.
Okay, now you also, when you were like 3, rode your big wheel once to go get candy at 86 in Westfield. Was this a similar venture?
Yeah, similar. But wait till after I have a grilled cheese.
Here, it's the big deal.
And a milkshake.
Brooke brought me a milk deal. You said you were coming down just for the grilled cheese and the milkshake, right?
Yes.
Okay, so how long did it take you to ride from the north side of Indianapolis down the Monon to the great Indiana State Fair?
Probably 20 minutes.
And the whole time, because you are a Purdue graduate, and I know that you are a Boilermaker at heart, were you thinking about the comments the athletic director made? Did you hear the comments the athletic director made?
I thought they were on point.
I like it. Okay. So you want championships, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right, let's bring Nathan back, and then I'll get Doug's comments on the sandwich, because I'm going to give him a sandwich. Here, Doug, enjoy the sandwich. My cousin will be eating the big dill while we're waiting. Okay, so Nathan, I was just asking you, what's the big task here if you could pinpoint one area that he knows, Tommy McClelland, is going to be his biggest obstacle as the Purdue AD, it would be what?
Yeah, like I was saying, there are some obstacles I think that you can't ever really remove. I think you had to find someone with the creativity to go around them. And when I sat down with Tommy McClelland yesterday, he had a lot of ideas that he's seeing at other places, either things that he has done at Louisiana Tech or Vanderbilt or Rice, or just looking around the country at, Iowa State, just in a football stadium very similar to Ross State Stadium, just had a big concert there this summer, and things that have happened at other schools like that. How are you finding ways to generate revenue that maybe are already sitting here and just haven't been tapped into? And, Purdue is a little bit more conservative and traditional, I think, by its nature, and it needed someone to come in with a new perspective and maybe inject some of those, some new ways of thinking into the whole community here, the whole apparatus around Purdue, and trying to get to talk to people like Mitch Daniels yesterday, the interim president, talking to Mike Klipsch, who's the board vice chair and the athletics liaison. Does he have the backing of the university leadership to try some of these things? And they say he does. It's like there's really nothing that isn't on the table right now. It would have to be talked through. It's not rubber stamped, but I think they're willing to try just about anything because, you're in a more rural setting. You aren't the state flagship school. There are a lot of schools in the Big Ten that have both of those things, the opposite of those things going for them. And so what do you do? And yes, the Protect College Sports Act, if it passes, and who knows if it will and when, it does help level the playing field for them a little bit, but I don't think it solves everything. I think it just creates the opportunity that they have to then go find a way to maximize.
Where does Purdue rank, Nathan? And I don't know if we even know this because a lot of this probably will never know the true report level of it. But in terms of athletic funds, and notably like NIL collectives, amongst the schools in the Big Ten, by your estimation, and I know that I'm assuming it's in the bottom quarter certainly, but where does Purdue rank at this point?
Well, yeah, I mean, it is an unknown. There is no way to measure. Everyone I think is fully funding revenue share, but it's really that on top of that, right? It's third-party NIL that makes a difference. And I don't know about bottom quarter, but certainly bottom third, somewhere in that range. They would almost have to be, I think, just based on what they are, who they are, where they are. And again, some of those things there's always going to be a little bit of a ceiling probably on what they really can do. It's why they want to have something like the Protect College Sports Act pass, because they think that then once everybody's working from the exact same number,
Nathan, can you elaborate for those who don't know on what that act is and what the proposal is going to be, and if it goes through, what that means for college athletics?
Well, yeah, so more or less it is an act that they're trying to, federal legislation that is being debated and changed and adapted for potential passage as we speak. I'm watching on social media. There's stuff going on today, debate and reform changes that are happening to it today. But basically, it would cut out the unlimited third-party NIL. Basically, everybody would have the revenue share pool. You'd have a retention pool on top of that would allow you to just keep your own athletes. There's even a separate part in there that is just for women's sports. But everyone would just be working from those numbers. It wouldn't be this unlimited amount of third-party NIL that you would have access to. So in some ways, it's going to restrict earnings for athletes. In other ways, it maybe gives them some more. There's other things written into it that give them a little bit more certainty and freedom to things that they want. I think it would be better if there were actual athletes at the table helping come up with this, and I don't think that really is ever enough of a part of this, the solutions they've tried to come up with. But it's the closest thing they've come to providing what certainly everybody on the administrative and coaching side wants, which is stability. And with Tommy McClelland, I can't remember the exact word that he used about just how unstable things are. I think he said it doesn't feel very stable. And that's when people are kind of predicting the the doom of college sports. I think that's what it is. They think that this is just going to sort of tear itself apart if they don't find a way to streamline things, bring everybody under the same rules, rather than just being governed by every lawsuit that pops up somewhere in the country. That's the goal of it. Whether it's going to get through the political system, who knows? They're trying to get it through this summer. If it doesn't get through basically today, probably, then maybe it doesn't get through to the fall, and who knows if it ever happens. But it's one of the solutions that they're seeking to try to bring stability to this.
You know, it seems to me, Nathan, and one of the things I've talked a lot about, not to compare Indiana and Purdue all the time, but it's the barometer that we can look at here. I think Indiana had a better anticipation of the NIL, and they were more prepared for the collectives when all of a sudden, Indiana it was almost like they were jump-started ahead of everybody, and they were able to kind of move into that era, and Purdue is now having to figure it out. But that does not make Purdue unique by any stretch of the imagination. Football season, of course, will be getting underway before we know it. At that point, Nathan, I'd love to have you back on, and we will continue to watch what the Boilers can do and try to determine what a measure of success is. The bar was probably raised a little bit based on that comment. But, Nathan, I appreciate the time today, certainly, and the perspectives on Purdue as well.
Yep, sure, Jake. Anytime.
All right, Nathan Baird joining us here on the Schwab Men's 2-1 hotline. All right, Brooke Williams has come back. Brooke, I gave the sandwich to my cousin. Yeah, I know, and he gives it the thumbs up. We'll come back. We'll talk to Brooke one more time. We'll get the review from Doug on the sandwich as well, and we're replenishing him because he rode his bike all the way down here, right? In the rain, did Doug.
Yes.
Wearing his Red Sox hat, which the Red Sox are the only thing hotter than the cold milkshakes here at the Dairy Bar. We'll explain all of it, put a tie on all of it, and wrap things up when we come back here from the Dairy Bar at the Indiana State Fair. You're listening to Query & Company, 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
This is Query & Company on 93.5 and 107.5 The Fan.
The reality is it is not closing time for the Dairy Bar because Brooke Williams, who is the Director of Communications for the American Dairy Association of Indiana, that's a very long title, by the way.
I know.
It's a little intimidating to repeatedly say.
I didn't make it up.
Okay, well, listen, it's a good – can you hear everything okay, by the way? Okay, I just want to make sure. It's a good title for sure, and with that, I would like for you to communicate the hours at the Dairy Bar for everybody.
9 a.m. to 9 p.m.
That's long hours. Now, you don't have the same high school kids in there for all 12 hours, right?
Today we do.
Really?
Yeah, it just depends. Every day is a little different.
Those Lincoln City kids don't mess around, right?
No, they don't. Yeah, but
or
some
Cambridge City,
Lincoln Athletics. But some groups just do a morning, some do an afternoon night shift, but they committed.
Okay, now you were kind enough to bring out one of the grilled cheese sandwiches, and then my cousin, I gave it to him because my cousin and I, and we're going to get to this in a second. I asked you about bands earlier.
Yes.
My cousin and I went to go see the greatest concert in the history of music a year ago. But Doug, I'd like to know your scouting report. This is the Doug Bowen official scouting report on the Big Deal, right?
Well, for starters, I'm a big grilled cheese fan.
Okay.
So I think the rye was awesome. The pickles are the perfect touch.
Good.
There you
Very
go.
good.
Now, that's not rye bread, though, right?
Sourdough.
Or sourdough. I'm sorry, sourdough.
Yeah. Okay, so
and,
sourdough.
There might be a little bit of butter, too, in the bread, which just, butter makes everything better.
See, but did you get him? He's like already campaigning for a rye sandwich is what it sounds like.
Doug knows. I mean, we're related, right? So the one thing that we have in common is that we both love the Swiss on rye.
Right.
Which I think should be brought back.
I know.
Can we do that next year? You also have milkshakes that are here, including the blue raspberry, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is the milkshake of the year.
Yes.
At the Dairy Bar. Correct?
Blue raspberry, and then we still have, as you mentioned, strawberry, chocolate, and vanilla. Yesterday, I actually put them all in one cup to see if that combination. It's probably not for everyone. It's not for me, but.
There was a term for that when you were a kid, and I don't think it's not politically correct to say now.
No.
But an all-encompassing.
There you
call
go.
that like didn't you ever, after Little League games, you'd get the all-encompassing soda and you get everything, right?
Yep.
The whole mix,
The
right?
whole mix.
Okay, so this is taking place, and again, we talked about this earlier, Brooke. This is, clearly a huge undertaking for the American Dairy Association in terms of the Dairy Bar. But I know you guys work for it all year long, and it's just one of the different things that you guys do. When we say the American Dairy Association of Indiana, we know of the dairy farmers, but what all-encompassing does the organization do?
Yeah, so we like to say we kind of work in three buckets. So we have the dairy farming side, and then we have health and wellness, so making sure that kids know from a young age why they should be consuming dairy products, but also working with health professionals like doctors, pediatricians, to make sure that they have the right scientifically correct information to be sharing with people. And then that third aspect is kind of the community. So we get to do an event like the Indiana State Fair, the Ice Cream Social in July, and I know one of your favorites, the Indianapolis 500, and the drink of milk at the end.
Doug's got his Indy 500 shirt on, right?
I know, see? So, yeah, I mean, throughout the year we kind of have these fun events, but when we're not out in the community and have lines at the dairy bar, we're in a lot of schools working to just make sure people have the right information they need.
Okay, so earlier I was asking you your favorite band, right?
Yeah.
And when I asked your favorite band, you were hesitant. You didn't say what it was.
Well,
right?
you know what? I feel like I will. So my daughter was she said something the other day, and the next thing you know, I'm singing New Kids on the Block.
Okay.
And so that was
they're actually older
fan
kids on the
favorite.
block now. I don't know if you know that or not, right?
But that was my favorite as a child. And the other night, we actually turned on some New Kids on the Block because I was singing the right stuff and doing the moves.
Which one's hanging tough? Was that New Kids on the Block?
Also New Kids on the Block, yeah. Yeah.
That's a little embarrassing. I know that.
See?
You really wouldn't know the truth.
You probably went and saw them on tour here recently.
No, I didn't. You know what? But actually, I think Shannon saw them in the Sphere. It was maybe it wasn't New Kids or NSYNC or Backstreet Boys, one of those. Yeah. It was. It's like the Savannah Bananas, right? You got excited about it. The reason I mentioned it, so my cousin Doug is here, and listeners of this show, and Eddie notably, have gotten tired of hearing me talk about the fact that last July I went and saw Oasis for not one but two shows in Manchester, England. Doug went along basically as just support staff. Doug didn't know anything about Oasis really. I think he said I downloaded 4 songs, and then we got there. So Doug, I would like for you to have my back. I mean, I gave you a grilled cheese, so you're obligated now. But it was a great concert, was it not?
Oh, it was incredible. I mean, I would put it on par with, race day, like for most people around here.
Right.
I mean, it was an incredible experience. How many people do you think were at that venue?
I mean, they said 80,000, but it had to be 100, right? I don't know if you know this or not. There's 4 million hogs in Indiana. Did you know that? I saw the sign out there. Did you know that, Brooke? 4 million hogs in Indiana.
Yeah,
but if those people that counted the hogs in Indiana were doing the attendance, there was 300,000 at the Oasis concert. But it was probably legitimately 100,000, right?
Yeah, and they need more portalets, I think.
that is true.
Down in the
Would you like to share what happens with the flying cups?
No. I'll let you handle that one.
Let's just say, do you know this, Brooke?
No.
If you go to a concert in England, so Doug and I get off, we go to the concert venue. It's in this big park, and we get off of the train, or it was like a subway that takes you out there or whatever, the tram, and they're passing out bucket hats. Like a local bank sponsored this bucket. And, okay, so we put on the bucket hat, right? Well, this is fun. And then I ask somebody, just out of curiosity, why does everyone wear the bucket hat?
Yeah.
And he says, oh, you'll find out once the concert starts. So Doug and I, because we're older guys, we get towards the back of, say, the mosh pit. And then the music starts and cups start flying everywhere with liquid flying out of the cups. And I thought, well, and everybody down there's wearing the bucket hat to protect from the liquid that's flying through the air. And then I finally said to somebody, the beers are rather expensive. It would seem as though that's a waste of money. And he says, that's not the beer that's flying through the air. And then we noticed that there was a lack of portalettes. And realized that they do things differently over there, and this is the reason why they wear the bucket.
Very disgusting.
So if you go see New Kids on the Block in England, there you go. That's what you need to look out for, right?
Yeah.
But it was, aside from that, it was awesome, right?
Yeah. Oh, I mean, it was an incredible experience. They sounded incredible.
They did sound
really
incredible.
did.
No question about it. Okay, so, Brooke, I want to get back to just the heritage and the history of the Dairy Bar itself. Because you're wearing the shirt Dairy Bar 41. We talked about it earlier. I didn't realize that this has been a part of the state fair for, if my math is correct, this is the 85th year. Is that right?
If you say that, I haven't done the math, and I'm not going to real quick, but I believe you. It started in 1941 as just a milk stand. So people could buy, white milk and go along with all the rest of their fair food. And so this dairy bar, I believe, opened in 2004. So it's been this bigger footprint since then. But, yeah, I mean, now it's such a tradition for so many families to come to the dairy bar. And then, of course, we have the cheese sculpture as well. So you can get your food at the dairy bar, go and visit Sarah Kaufman as she's carving 1,600 pounds of cheddar cheese. And this is Sarah's 20th year here as well. So the cheese sculpture this year is an ode to her.
What's the final product of the cheese sculpture?
Well, so this year Sarah is actually carving herself into cheese along with Buttercup, our beloved mascot. And then there's, to go along with the baseball theme at the fair as well.
Chainsaws? What's the method?
It's a lot of like scraping, whatever those tools
impressive.
are. But no, not chainsaws.
And this takes place because I know a couple years ago we were out there and I saw her just at the beginning of it.
Yeah.
And then does it go for the totality of the fair and the last day, or when does she get done with it?
She does her big unveiling next Wednesday at noon. So really, I mean, not even a week that she's here carving. She started carving this morning, and then she carves every day.
Have you been to, I know that we talked earlier about your family roots in Nebraska. Have you been to South Dakota?
No.
If you go to Mount Rushmore, around the corner from it,
yes, I've been. I thought you meant to like their state fair. I have been to South Dakota.
So have you seen
Mount
Crazy
Rushmore.
Horse, the monument
Yes.
they're doing?
That was supposed to be done in it's supposed to be
Well, now they're
completed,
saying
but-
it's going to be another 95 years.
Right.
So when you see it, you're like, well, wait a minute. So we should get her out there.
Yes.
She could accelerate. She could scrape and mold and do all of those things.
And they
right?
use dynamite, I think, or something
They do.
crazy.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's rock, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's not. It is not the smooth butter-like feel of the cheese like Doug enjoyed with his sandwich,
That's
right?
right, yeah.
Hey, did you go to Waldrug, by the way?
Oh, that's in South Dakota, right?
It's right around Nebraska, South Dakota. I mean, I remember seeing signs like every
I
5
think
miles.
Waldrug's like, yes, it's the Buc-ee's of South Dakota,
Yes.
I think, right?
Oh.
But I think that Buc-ee's has jumped the shark.
Do you?
Yeah, kind of.
We'll see how when it goes into Greenwood or wherever it's going.
It's like the Savannah Bananas. Like, it's fun the first few times.
I just went up
and
to
then
Wally's. Have you been to Wally's?
I heard it's not bad, right?
It's not. It was fine.
Is
Someone was just raving about their brisket.
It's like Buc-ee's, but it's
Smaller.
It's a bear, right?
Wally's? I don't remember.
Did you see Buc-ee's is suing
Yes,
some
a little guy.
Yeah. In like Beaver, Ohio.
Right.
And he's had like the beaver market for like 50 years, and now they're suing him because, but they say that they have the rights to it, right?
I know.
Brooke, it's always a pleasure. I will await the invitation to be able to come out and serve, all part of also to help out the Great American Milk Drive. if I'm not
Jake
mistaken,
is going to be, this is the big announcement, he's going to be a celebrity server at the Dairy Bar.
Well, we don't know about celebrity, but server, yes.
Yep.
I'm happy to do that,
It's
right?
a tradition.
Do we know which kids I'll be working with, which high school?
No, it depends what day.
Okay.
Stay tuned.
Well, I will make 9-foot-high milkshakes when it
Can't
happens. I can assure you of that. I appreciate, as always, having us out. All right, Doug, I appreciate you riding your bike down. Brooke's going to get you a milkshake.
Cool.
Yeah.
You put it on my tab, actually.
What kind?
Got to go with the blueberry.
Oh, good.
Blue raspberry.
Blue raspberry.
Yeah.
Which is raspberry, but with blue food coloring, right?
I don't.
There's no such thing as a blue raspberry. Isn't
I've
that
never
right?
seen one.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
nonetheless, the blue raspberry is spectacular. The grilled cheese as well. I want to thank everybody for coming out. A busy, busy day today, as a matter of fact. Thanks to Nathan Baird for joining us, Matt Taylor earlier in the program, Kyle Neddenrip as well, and Tommy McClelland. That interview will be up. All of them will be. But Tommy McClelland's as well in podcast form at 1075thefan.com. Now, Eddie, you got used to not seeing me during the course of Colts camp. You will not see me on Monday. That's because I'm coming back on a red-eye from Portland, Oregon. But, Eddie, I get to go to, if time permits, when I'm out there, the corporate store for Nike and for Columbia. Do you want anything, Eddie, on either one of them?
Ooh, I'll have to think on that.
Have to think on that. Okay, well, nonetheless, we'll see what I can come back with. But that is this weekend, and then Will Haskett will be in for me on Monday. But I would assume that he will have plenty of conversation about what takes place over the course of the weekend, including Colts camp continuing. Kevin Bowen has all of your coverage on that. J&B typically, of course, we do the crossover brought to you by the good guys at Love Heating and Air, love-hvac.com. 317-353-2141 is the telephone number to preview exactly what it is that John has upcoming on his program. But we will tune in at 3 o'clock to find out, and right after that I will be on my way to Portland. But don't forget, over 100 years as a family-owned business is Love Heating and Air. And the American Dairy Association of Indiana, a reminder once again, 9 until 9 each and every day of the great Indiana State Fair that opens today. It is band day. It runs all the way through until the 23rd. You folks have a wonderful weekend. Will Haskett will be with you at 10 o'clock coming up on Monday. For Eddie Garrison, I'm Jake Query, and I thank you for listening to Query and Company.